last week, running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my right?
Hello, wackos. Good to be in the studio. Welcome to Without a Country. I am Corinne Fisher, and as my brother pointed out when I saw him in LA, these are pasties that I have on my computer. He said, "Corinne, are those booby covers?" On once a little brother, always a little brother. He said, "Are those booby covers on your computer?" I said, "Yes, they are. Obviously, it's me. What do you think?" Wearing my Elvira sweatshirt for the Halloween episode. I feel like every episode this year has been a Halloween episode because things are scary in America and many other places. Not Ireland, though. You guys did a great job of voting recently. So we shall see what is up. We'll get to that story in just a second. As a reminder, New York Comedy Festival is swiftly approaching, and the tickets for guys, we bleeped. Slutsgiving are already half sold out. It's a big theater, so make sure to grab a ticket. It is going to be an iconic show. We locked in. We've been saying like we're booking great guests, and we're not like lying. But we are. In some of those cases, we were hoping that the people got officially locked in, and we did lock in one person. And it's very exciting. So looking forward to that show. You definitely want to get a ticket to that. It's going to be, I think it's going to be our best live show ever. And I'm just going to say it. Unlike other podcasts, we have a really good live show. Before we started touring years ago, we went to see a lot of live podcast shows, and they were a snooze fest, which is why we created GWF The Experience, because I don't know, just watching people do a podcast live, I find very boring. You guys know I'm kind of an anti-podcast podcaster though. So I like doing them. I like listening to them though. I can't clean my house to music. I can only clean my house to a podcast because music doesn't keep my attention in the same way. But anyway, make sure to grab a ticket. That's Friday, November 14th at the Crown Hill Theater in Brooklyn, a beautiful theater. Tickets are in the Linktree link in my bio, in Christina's bio, in the GWF Instagram bio. You can go to the Crown Heights Theater website. Really, there are a plethora of places where you can get tickets to this, and it's going to be a fun show. Eric Freddy will be there, maybe some other folks that you know, but yeah, it'll be good. And of course, if you want to participate in our food drive, just bring a non-perishable food item, and Christina and I will personally deliver it to a local food bank. We had that in place before President Trump was toying with SNAP benefits, but feels even more, important now, although it is completely unsustainable for food banks to make up for SNAP benefits. I was watching an interview with a director of a food bank, and they were kind of asking her, can you guys make up for what will be lost? And she said, for every one meal a food bank provides, SNAP provides 9. So she said, in short, no, we cannot make up for this at all. I also had been doing some research on things that are most needed at food banks. Like a lot of people, I talked about this on GWF, but a lot of people donate like boxed macaroni and cheese, but that requires milk. So either do the cups that only require water, or when you donate the macaroni and cheese, you can also donate specifically boxed milk, like non-perishable milk. It does exist. That's super useful. Also, if you're getting cans, they recommend doing ones that have the flip top that you don't need a can opener for, or you can also donate something like a can opener. And then there's also like additional things. I actually didn't even know food banks took this kind of stuff, but like period products, shampoo, conditioner, that kind of thing. I didn't realize that food banks took them because I used to. At New Alternatives, we would take in those kinds of things, but apparently you can donate those to food banks as well. But I'm sure every food bank locally is different. It's not like there's some kind of a national mandate. So I think it probably goes food bank by food bank. So, you can just check the website. Same as Goodwill. There's a lot of things that you cannot donate to Goodwill that, I'm sure just show up and then end up in the trash. So just keep in mind, like, things like pillows and blankets and stuff, you can't really donate that to Goodwill, but you can, however, donate that kind of stuff to pet shelters. So don't forget, like a lot of like pet shelters with like, used blankets and stuff, they're not going to take them at a Goodwill, but they will take them for the doggies and the kitties. So make sure to donate your blankets and bedwear and stuff like that there. That's a great place where it will actually be used. All right. Let's get right into the enemy of the state this week. God. This one hurts me personally because I really like this brand. She designs really, really cool, unique clothing for when I'm feeling girly girl. And this is, I usually don't like to dress girly girl, but I do still freaking love pink. And this brand has a lot of it. So the enemy of the state this week is Love Shack Fancy.
Enemy of the state.
Specifically, its founder, Rebecca Hessel Cohen. And I'm making, I am a big proponent of voting for who you want to vote for, but the mayoral race obviously is a bit personal to me. And she recently, in her Instagram stories, officially endorsed Andrew Cuomo. And I mean, obviously hurtful from a woman, but beyond that, hurtful from a brand like Love Shack Fancy that goes on and on and on about how much they love helping and supporting women with their brand. This is, people have been leaving comments on the Love Shack Fancy Instagram. They've all been deleted. I left one moments ago. It's already been deleted. So I would say, rather than leaving a comment that's definitely going to be deleted, just put it in, put it in your Instagram stories. Remind your friends not to shop Love Shack Fancy. If you also want to be super problematic, or anti-problematic, perhaps is how we should call it. If you want to just be a real, just be a real fire starter. You can also tag Rent the Runway because they do carry Love Shack Fancy. And I do think it would be funny if we made Rent the Runway drop Love Shack Fancy. Again, I really love the clothes that they design, but to be this like pro-women brand and then endorse someone like Andrew Cuomo is dastardly. It's not, I'm just like enough of this shit. It's really gross. So that is that very disappointing. That's one of those ones, how there's kind of like this joke where when you're boycotting or when like the liberals say, or, I guess Republicans also say when they announce that it's time to boycott a brand, because the Republicans do that a lot too, Goya Beans, Gate or whatever. You always cross your fingers and hope that it's a brand that you didn't use anyway. Like when everyone's like boycotting Starbucks, I'm like, yeah, we should boycott Starbucks. I never fucking go to Starbucks. I don't even like Starbucks very much. I'm a Dunkin' girly, and Dunkin' is the coffee of the people. Okay, I think we knew that. And also, they're way faster. Who has time to wait 10 minutes for a coffee at Starbucks? I swear to God, it's the slowest establishment I've ever been to in my entire freaking life. Dunkin' Donuts, you sneeze and it's ready. I don't know how they do it. I don't know. And maybe there's less elements to it. You can get some pretty fancy things done at Dunkin', but I don't know what's going on at Starbucks, but, they're always boycotting them. So, I've been boycotting them for years, guys. Okay, that's it for Enemy of the State. This just in from Canada, moments before I headed to the studio. This is from Fox News. Senate Republicans defect, reject Trump's tariffs on Canadian goods. He was trying to start a problem. Do you want me to share? Can I share your theory or on air? Okay. Uh, so Crystal had a theory that I wanted to share. Just because I think this is good. We love to predict why Trump does the things he does. Is it a personal vendetta? There's always a personal reason attached to anything that this guy does. I mean, this is a pattern. And Crystal's theory is about the Canadian tariffs. She says Trump's imposing more tariffs on Canada right before Christmas is setting himself up so that when Christmas doesn't do well, he can blame Canada, our leading exporter of Christmas trees, for ruining Christmas. Obviously, what's going to ruin Christmas is like children not eating, multiple genocides going on worldwide that I'm sure we're supporting them all, no one having money, the government shutdown, the weaponization of the Charlie Kirk assassination. I mean, the list goes on and on, really. What a fun time. 'Tis the season. But yeah, so J.D. Vance previously warned GOP senators it would be a huge mistake to break with White House on tariff strategy. A small contingent of Senate Republicans again joined with Senate Democrats to reject President Donald Trump's tariffs, this time on Canadian goods. The Senate advanced a resolution from Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat Virginia, on a bipartisan basis to terminate the emergency powers Trump used to declare retaliatory tariffs against Canada earlier this year. Retaliatory I feel like we need to do some kind of a word count for times that retaliatory has been used in articles about Donald Trump as opposed to other presidents. Roughly the same core group of Republicans, Susan Collins of Maine, Rand Paul, and Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, joined Senate Democrats to reject the duties. Senator Tom Tillis, Republican, North Carolina, opted to vote against this latest attempt to reject Trump's tariffs. The vice president came up yesterday to try to corral Republicans at their lunch, Kaine said before lunch. That shows that the White House is worried about defectors on this. Indeed, their votes against Trump's tariffs on Canada came after Vice President J.D. Vance warned Republicans that it would be a huge mistake to break with the White House on the president's tariff strategy. And he argued that using duties on countries across the globe offered leverage to generate better trade deals in return. Paul, one of the co-sponsors of Kaine's resolution, has consistently rejected Trump's usage of tariffs and argued that it was a tax on consumers in the U.S. rather than on foreign countries. He noted that the message it would send to the White House, despite pressure from Vance to support Trump's duties, was, quote, that a rule by emergency is not what the Constitution intended, that taxes are supposed to originate in the House of Representatives. The resolution was in response to Trump's usage of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act in July. Again, just like any kind of act or rule or vetoing power that has stayed unused by presidents for decades and decades. Trump is finding them. I don't know if he's asking ChatGPT, what can I do? But he's finding them and he's using them. That's the MO. So, go as a party game, you look up all the unused powers of the president that a president has dared to use in decades and decades, and then maybe we can make a bingo board of which one he's going to use next, because that's his playbook right there. The tariffs on the country vary, with Trump initially placing 35% duties on the country earlier this year, along with a blanket 50% tariff on steel from other countries. However, he recently cranked up the tariffs on Canada by 10%, following an ad that ran last week that featured former President Ronald Reagan, which used audio from the former president's 1987 radio address to the nation of free and fair trade. Trump railed against the ad, which was run by the government of Ontario, Canada, and declared all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated in a post on Truth Social. The latest tariff vote is the second in a trio of resolutions from Kaine and several Senate Democrats. Despite the resolution terminating Trump's emergency powers on tariffs in Brazil and Canada both advancing in the Senate, they will likely stall in the House. McConnell staked his position against the tariffs in a statement where he argued that retaliatory tariffs have negatively affected Kentucky farmers and distillers. Tariffs make both building and buying in America more expensive. The economic harms of trade wars are not the exception to history, but the rule. And no cross-eyed reading of Reagan will reveal otherwise, he said. This week, I will vote in favor of resolutions to end emergency tariff authorities. Well, everybody's pissed. Everybody's pissed. Oh, and speaking of our friend Trump and retaliation and all this, wait, what did I want to say? Just slipped my mind. I had something real good to say. What the fuck was I talking about? Oh, Trump's third term, right? So I thought, and I put a clip of it, that's why I clipped this specific part of the interview. I thought, as I think I've said before on the show, the most interesting part of the interview I did with White House Faith Council office pastor Jackson Lawmeyer was when we were talking about Trump, kind of joking and making merch about having a third term, the Trump 2028 merch that's available on the official website. Like, why is that available? And when I brought that up, he said, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be Donald Trump Sr. And my response was chilling. And I stand by that. And then it's so funny because the same day that I put out that clip, there was a Steve Bannon interview that was going around saying that, Trump was going to run for a third term. So again, on the edge of my seat to see what happens there, whether it is one of his sons, whether it is him again. Is he trying to fully create a monarchy? Will we be, fully under, a Hitler-like state right now? I mean, we kind of are, like, right? When you watch these videos of these ICE agents in New York and Chicago, it is so violent. These people really look like, everyone's so afraid of robots and AI. I mean, look at these ICE agents. They're completely just like, I will do anything. And they're also obviously people who have been dying to legally hit someone for all their life. And I mean, I don't even think it's legal, but it's also like, as the protesters are marching behind them saying, you have to identify yourself. It's like, yes, technically they do, but everything's gone to shit. So no one's identifying themselves. They all have masks on. And like, yeah, we can attack them in the streets, which is fun. But like, ultimately, they're fully geared up. So, I think people are going to end up getting killed because they are being violent as hell. They're just whacking people. They're just whacking people right and left. And not to say that you shouldn't keep fighting back. You should, but it is getting gory out on those streets. And we're going to get into that a little bit more later in the show regarding Kat Abughazaleh, because some crazy shit is happening all the time. And, this is what they want to do. They want to keep us riled up and distracted and overwhelmed and feeling like, the news is so bad we can't even watch the news, so we stop paying attention. Mike, did you want to share the Bannon piece? You had it up. You were so excited, chomping at the bit.
No, I think Steve Bannon is an absolute ghoul, and every time he opens his mouth, children get sad. I
mean, he is one of the I know we're not supposed to use looks to target people whose ideas we hate, but I mean, he is one of the, God, you're on TV, Steve Bannon. Surely you could run a comb through your hair. What is going on here?
Listen, the hair is the least of the issues.
No, I know. The skin, he's one of those people who kind of looks like, they don't really have a shape. He looks like a gelatin kind of sitting on a couch.
He's amorphous.
Yeah, it's not good. He looks like something that you would catch on an episode of Ghostbusters or in the film Ghostbusters. Something
you catch from the bottom of the sea where like light doesn't make it.
Yeah, truly grotesque human being. But
he's going to get a third term. So Trump 28. Trump is going to be president in 28.
Okay.
And people just ought to get accommodated with that.
All right.
So what about the 22nd Amendment?
There's many different alternatives. At the appropriate time, we'll lay out what the plan is. But there's a plan, and President Trump will be the president in 28.
I like that he says they're going to lay it out.
In 16.
He's
and
gonna
longer
lay it
odds in
out.
24 than we got in 28. And President Trump will be the president of the United States, and the country needs him to be president of the United States. We have to finish what we started. And the way
Don't love
we
that.
finish it through Trump. Trump is a vehicle. I know this will drive you guys crazy, but he's a vehicle of divine providence. He's an instrument. He's very imperfect. He's not churchy, not
So-
particularly religious.
Listen
but
to
he's-
those talking points. It's like they all got some kind of manual because those talking points that he's an imperfect vessel. Jackson Lawmeyer used almost that same exact language to describe Donald Trump. So, and like this is what I talk about when I say like what the Republicans get right is they're really good on shared messaging and a shared goal. Okay, even though the goal is crazy and the messaging also crazy, they're pretty aligned with what they're saying. They're like, this is what we're saying. This is what's happening. We're all working together. And it's crushing the Democrats. So just keep in mind, like, we gotta be on the same page with shit, right? Which is like why things like, you know, even if you're not dazzled by a Democratic, nominee or something, we got to get behind them. We got to stop nitpicking. Like, ultimately, like, is it the better choice for the country? Like, I mean, everyone's nitpicking of Kamala is added to why we're in the situation that we're in. So just know that. Okay. And it's not to say that, you know, leaders should go like, it's just like, let's get them into the position and then you could push back against things you don't like. Right. But when we're going into the thing, you got to go, all right, what's one person I won't be like jazzed about and the other person will ruin my entire life.
Well, then hold on, Corinne.
Okay.
How in God's name then can you make the enemy of the state the lady that you did when it's like I've heard a lot of people, and this seems to be the genuine.
Andrew Cuomo's a Republican,
official,
and you can't
official.
You cannot convince me otherwise. Andrew Republican is a
Okay.
Republican dressed as a Democrat to take over New York City.
Sure,
He's a
sure.
Republican.
Yep. He's on. I hate him, so he's on your team. That's fair. That's fair play.
No. He's a Republican. The guy's moves
How so?
like a Republican. His stuff is Republican.
They're all
And he's working with
the
Trump.
same party. It doesn't matter.
not.
They have the same people pay both people on both sides.
What are you talking? If you're going to work with Trump, you have then become a Republican. That's simple as that.
Sure.
Simple as that.
Okay, if you want to make it as simple and black and white as like Republican and Democrat, whatever. The point I'm making is, how can you say it doesn't matter, vote because the alternative is so drastic and so direly like against my values, and then blame someone for voting for Cuomo when they see Zohran as the antithesis of everything that America has ever stood
Is
for?
this your way of telling us that you're voting for Andrew Cuomo?
No, I'm voting for Curtis Lewa. I made that very clear. I can't. I will ride and die with Curtis Lewa. That dude is the only one in this race who has given anything close to a coherent plan for how they would be mayor of New York
I
City.
feel like Zoran's plan is coherent. I think it's
yeah,
simplistic,
sure.
but I
If
think
you're
it's
in
coherent.
kindergarten, it's very coherent, right?
Yeah, but that's
if you ask.
that's kind of what we've been talking about on the show all along, that the Democrats really need to simplify their messaging. And I think that's a big part of the reason that Zohran has seen the success he has, because when I entered the race, they literally were like, you cannot have more than 3 policy points. And he's done exactly that. He's like, things will be cheaper. He kind of wrote on one policy point, actually, and it has been the most successful campaign the Democrats have seen in decades.
Right.
It's crazy. It's changing the entire party.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. This whole thing just feels like a red herring. But
You think everything is a red herring?
no, I don't. The point I'm making though is if you're voting and saying, look, this guy sucks, but hey, this is the best option we got. You can't say, hey.
When the other option is
I'm gonna-
Donald Trump, things are very serious. We can't be playing games. It's not like it's a Republican who's like, oh, okay, this guy is just going to do like some weird stuff or like lower the taxes and we'll lose a little bit of stuff. This is an actual maniac.
You can't ever. I'm just saying.
Donald Trump is an actual maniac.
I fundamentally disagree on hold your nose and vote for the D.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I know you do. I know we understand that you do. But you voted for Donald Trump, and then every week you're regretting every single thing that he did.
I'm not regretting it. Listen, at the end of
You're
the day,
mad at every single thing he does. You send me posts nonstop about all this bad stuff that Donald Trump is doing. It's like, okay.
yeah, okay. And how much worse would my life be under Kamala Harris? I don't know, because we're not in that timeline. But I'm never casting a vote for a prosecutor.
ICE wouldn't be in ICE. Oh, you're not casting a vote for a prosecutor. You're casting a vote for someone who has ICE in the streets, ramming down people, just like punching ladies into the street. Like, what are you talking about here? The streets are like a complete madness.
Listen, that's something I'd never seen before. Before Kamala Harris had the office of president.
Kamala, it's fucking Kamala. Oh my God, you're like Andrew Cuomo saying Zohran Mamdani's driving me. Yeah, I care. It's so crazy. It's so easy.
Fine, Madam Harris. We'll just go with Madam Harris.
God.
She kept people in jail to fight fires. That's what she did when she had power in California. How would I ever trust that woman at a federal level with any kind of power? Who knows what they would be locking people up for?
Who knows? Okay, I got to get back to the show. And also, I would love to know how Zohran is supposed to be like a distraction. You're just saying because in general, socialism is often people like to say as a talking point that socialism is a distraction.
No, I mean, I laid this case out months ago.
I can't keep up. Okay, I got to get on with the show though.
If you socialize, if you are to bring in these socialist policies, right, and make state-run grocery stores and have the city of New York go ahead and buy up a ton of housing, which will then only inflate, the housing market prices, which will eventually lead to a crash, then in 10 years or whatever, 5 years, 7 years, BlackRock can come in and just buy up all that land that the city went and bought to make affordable housing. Mm-hmm. They'll be able to get it on the cheap the next time there's a Republican mayor or anybody who's like a Cuomo Democrat, Republican in sheep's clothing or whatever.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's not a distraction. That's more like the back and forth that consistently happens in a two-party system that we also see on a federal level consistently. So it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. We talk about that on the show a lot. Like, yes, it's a big problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the entire Cuomo campaign is none of it
campaign
makes any sense.
is my retort? There's no fucking campaign. If he wins this somehow, which like there's been a lot of chatter. I feel like there are people. I mean, I think they're just creating like a false nervousness to make sure that everyone gets out and votes because they're like, oh no, like it's been a lot of Gen X at the polls for early voting. It's like, oh okay, you mean the same people who always go to early vote? Like I'm a millennial. I never early vote. I literally never early vote. Early vote. I mean. I was going to say early voting's for dorks. No kind of voting is for dorks. You're very cool if you vote. But like there is something dorky about early voting. It's like something that old people do because they don't want to get out of their houses, Again,
the odds do keep getting closer on Kalshi.
Polymarket had Mamdani at 96% like 2 days ago.
Yeah, where's it at now?
I don't know. I don't check Polymarket every day. That's not how I do my politics. But again, I think it's just like a creation of hysteria. I would be, with the shit-ass campaign that Cuomo has run, I would be wildly surprised. But, I mean, if Zohran Mamdani doesn't win this election, this is like the end of the Democratic Party. You cannot run a campaign better than this guy ran a campaign. And on top of this, and we're going to talk about Zohran a lot today just because the election is coming up and it is truly the talk of the strategists and analysts are like tracking Zohran's thing and every new progressive running for Senate, running for Congress, et cetera, I've been checking out all these websites, they are all using what I'm going to be calling now the Zohran Mamdani template. It's the same coloring, the same energy, the same talking points. It's the same stuff. Again, some of it, borrowed from Bernie, but Bernie is it leaked into AOC. AOC leaked into Zohran. Zohran will now leak into other candidates that are coming out. I was invited to a fundraiser for who is this? Dr. I I gotta get a senator out of Michigan, Dr. Abdul El Sayed, who's running for U.S. Senate in Michigan. That's an interesting race. He's also running against Molly McMorrow, who is more moderate, but I do really like. She's still a Democrat. I really like Molly McMorrow as well, and had been following her because Mallory McMorrow, because she puts out a lot of interesting content. If you're interested in running for office, she has a very informative account. Like a lot of these people have, they're running for something and then their other account. So like find the one that's not her running for Senate. The other one, she does a lot of like straight to camera informational pieces. So I was following her when I was running for mayor because she just gave a lot of good information. Not gatekeeping. I know you guys hate gatekeeping. But yeah, but again, I went to Abdul for Senate.com and I was like, this is also giving Zohran. It's like the coloring, it's all the same. Just because when you find a strategy that works, everyone's obviously going to copy that. But yeah, no, if he doesn't win, this is I truly do feel like is the end of the Democratic Party. I mean, you cannot run a campaign better than he has run. And additionally, what I was going to say is that also, they've been trying to attack this guy for a year. And, as people online are saying, the most damning evidence they could find against this guy is that he posted pictures of himself publicly eating a burrito on the subway, which is fucking disgusting. Okay. The most you can eat is like a Hot Pocket on the subway. Eating a full meal that you need a fork and knife on the subway is just fucking disgusting because the subway's fucking disgusting, and hopefully he will clean that up.
Also,
yes, Michael.
The man was eating rice with his hands, but a burrito with a fork and knife. What an asshole.
No, it's not an asshole. That's a cultural thing. I'm sure. What was he eating white rice with the hands like Ethiopian food? Like, this is where it gets like pretty racist.
Yeah, with the same hand that he used to wipe his ass, by the way, which a lot of people from that culture have been like, dog, stop cosplaying.
What are you talking? You literally sound so racist right now from that
How do
culture.
I sound racist?
What are you talking about?
That's a literal thing in their culture. You wipe your ass with one hand, you eat with the other hand. They called him out on using the wrong hand because it was a photo op that he was doing.
I'm sure it was. And what do you mean that culture? What does that culture mean?
Do you eat rice with your hands, Corinne?
No.
Okay, so the culture of people who do eat rice with their hands.
Except for if I'm at an Ethiopian restaurant, because it is rude not to eat with your hands.
Sure.
That's how you're supposed to eat at an Ethiopian restaurant.
The point I'm making is the guy it's the same thing as everybody else. He's cosplaying.
Everything in politics is a photo op.
Which is why the fork and knife for a burrito makes you look insane.
Let me make that very clear. The whole thing is a photo op. That's why I was wildly disgusted. When I tell you stand-up comedy is more genuine than politics by 8,000 miles. I've talked about that so many times on here that I wanted to do something that was affected people positively in a better way, that was less self-indulgent. And I was like, maybe we can make politics that. I mean, I was physically ill with the nonsense going on in politics. And I really didn't do very much things that made me sick, or really anything at all, because I just failed to. But had I had to stay in that, or had I had the opportunity that I rightly earned to stay in the race longer, I would have been pummeled had I not started doing these photo op kind of things, for sure. And I mean, something I also wanted to talk about is similar to how every year on the Oscars, whatever the dramatic film is that is about the social issue that is most pressing to our society at that time wins the Oscar. Politics is very similar, right? So there has been a ton of Islamophobia against Zohran. That being said, it was from people who weren't going to vote for him no matter what. So, although it's disgusting to see, it's kind of like a moot point. It's what we expect from those people. But, this is a man who is Muslim, yes, but also spent a lot of time in India. His mom is famous in Indian culture for being a prominent Indian. She's done a lot of American films too, but really like her huge success came in Indian filmmaking. But he's not going to lead, if there was a time when Indian culture was at the forefront of our minds, he would have leaned into being Indian. But because we were post-October 7th, obviously he was going to lean into being Muslim. Not that he is not Muslim or he is not Indian. He is both of those things. But you're going to strategically lean into the thing that is going to help you in the election. And so while we can talk all day about the disgusting Islamophobia that has surrounded this campaign, and that is true, please note, he is purposely leaning into being Muslim. It is my belief, even though he is, he's really just highlighting it extra because it is helpful at this time, because it is related to Gaza and Israel. That's very clear, obviously. And so it's not that he's it's not that he's faking being Muslim, but it's like that this is a thing that will help him during this time. And everyone in politics does that. And it's like, okay, this is just a thing that everybody does. Do I like it? No. But also, we as constituents are receptive to it. So what the fuck are we going to do about it? This is what, especially Democrats, we are the party of identity politics. This is what we do. If, there's a million types of things that you could lean into at this time, and definitely not a good time for a Jewish person to be running. That wouldn't, that's why. And that those numbers showed up in Brad Lander's results, obviously. But, he's working in conjunction with Zohran, and I think it'll be good. And, just the things, people have been saying, if Zohran is elected, I'm going to, move. I had a friend go, if Zohran's elected, I'm going to move back to Tennessee. I go, honestly, maybe you should just start packing your bags now, because, this is, the racism is actually, just so lame. It's so lame. It's so expected. The things I'm reading, I'm like, what? Are we just, is this a day after 9/11, the kind of shit I'm reading online? It's actually ridiculous. If you're going to not like this guy because, I don't know, you think he's inexperienced or you actually don't like his policies, like I said, I took a test. I really only align with about 40% of his actual policies. So if that's the reason you're not into him, okay. But if the reason is some made up thing about, you're scared of Muslim people, that's fucking crazy bananas, especially if you live in New York City when it's a very diverse place. Really, when you look at the stats, it's 30%, 30%, 30%. There is no one group that is overwhelming over other groups in New York City, which is what makes it so cool. So anyway, yeah, I've just been reading stuff that people are writing, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me right now? Just really hateful garbage. Okay. Let's quickly take a moment to thank our patrons. All hail to our dictator, Christopher Fungi. Shout out to our cuties who just signed on, Claire Egoff, Chanel, and Kylie. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/withoutacountry. And yeah, you get an extra bonus news story every single week, and you help support this show. You pay the bills. So thank you so much for being here. I sincerely appreciate you. Let's go right in, since we're talking about Zohran anyway. I wanted to do some heavy municipal stuff this week. This is also seconds as the wacko mailbag, because a lot of you guys have been sending me really great municipal articles. So this is this is kind of like the Washington Post getting, I don't know, desperate. I gotta say, I usually expect a little bit better from the Washington Post. This is something I would expect to see more in the New York Times. But this is from Wacko George, and it's this, anti-Zohran op-ed. So it's by Mark A. Thiessen, who, again, make sure when you're reading an op-ed, you look who it is. Mark A. Thiessen is an American political columnist, speechwriter, and political commentator. He is a columnist for the Washington Post and a Fox News contributor, which is kind of to Mike's point earlier, everyone's getting money from the same place. Okay, well, it's apparently everyone's writing news for conflicting news sources. And again, not conflicting in fact, but conflicting in bias. race. So I just thought it was very interesting that he writes for both the Washington Post and Fox News. That's kind of strange.
Is it? I mean,
yes.
Washington Post is owned by Bezos now, and Bezos is deeply in Trump's pocket. It feels like all of the major news organizations are shifting right.
I'm sure it'll move that way, but I mean, Washington Post still usually is like pretty progressive enough that it's not crazy, but it's like I mean, I'm gonna have to start reading Vox now or something. I usually read like. Actually, I do like Here's Why, Kevin, but you got to fact check these a little bit more. Oh my gosh. Oh, my political advisor. I asked my political advisor a question about a race, and he goes when I hear people endorse Cuomo over Zohran, all I hear is, quote, I'm more bothered by hypothetical socialism than I am by guaranteed corruption. That's a good quote. He's always a smart guy. And Mark A. Thiessen, who's we're about to read his piece, is also a 58-year-old Republican, and he's a white guy. So those are all the things you need to know about him. So this is Hold Your Noses, New Yorkers. Here's the best choice for mayor. As Louisiana voters can tell you, sometimes you have to go with the least worst candidate. So I guess he agrees with me, although we don't agree on who the least worst candidate is. In the 1991 Louisiana governor's race, okay, 1991's a stretch, voters were faced with two revolting choices. David Duke, a neo-Nazi and former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, and Edwin Edwards, a former 3-term Democratic governor who had been indicted and acquitted on corruption charges. You know, it's good. It's going to be a good op-ed about Zohran when we start with talking about the former Grand Wizard of the KKK. Edwards supporters printed bumper stickers with what became an unofficial slogan of his campaign: "Vote for the crook. It's important." And you know, when I was at the Donald Trump rally in Latrobe, Pennsylvania for the Daily Show, there was a kind of a similar language used on merch about like vote for the crook. Like it wasn't that exact terminology, but that essence was all around on merch. And I was like, all right. Today, New Yorkers face an equally unpalatable choice between the Marxist Zohran Mamdani and Andrew M. Cuomo, the sleazy former 3-term Democratic governor who was forced to resign in a sexual harassment scandal and whom many New Yorkers blame for the deaths of their grandparents during the COVID pandemic. Well, to those New Yorkers, I say, vote for the sleazeball. It's important. Let's be clear. Cuomo does not belong in Gracie Mansion. He left the governor's office in disgrace after a state investigation found he sexually harassed 11 women and then carried out a campaign to exact retribution against one of his accusers. Cuomo has denied any wrongdoing. During the COVID pandemic, he forced more than 9,000 coronavirus positive patients back into nursing homes and then tried to cover up the number of deaths that resulted. He was facing impeachment by the Democratic-controlled New York Senate when he resigned. Now he's trying to make an improbable and undeserved political comeback. New Yorkers should hold their noses and pull the lever for him anyway. Where is this guy voting? In 1991? What place are you still fucking pulling a lever? Dude, this is like so outdated because that's the only way to stop Mamdani from becoming mayor. Is this guy voting in New York? When's the last time anyone pulled a lever? I don't think I pulled a lever since I was a little kid and was voting with my mom when I was a minor and you were allowed to go into the booth with your mom. Mamdani has expressed clear Marxist views. Also, I love that we just like have these words and we use them as weapons because it's like, okay, Marxism like when you actually it's just like about class struggle. Like it's just talking about how a capitalist system creates exploitation of like the working people. Like I don't like it's not crazy. Anyway, I have such a headache from this fucking race. So Mamdani has expressed clear Marxist views, including support for seizing the means of production and the abolition of private property, and wants to establish government grocery stores, set a $30 minimum wage. What a bad guy! And raise property. Like, I don't think that's super feasible, but like, is it something that is like, would be good? Yeah. And raise property taxes on richer and whiter neighborhoods. Quote, on X, he has endorsed Karl Marx's dictum, each according to their need, each according to their ability, the textbook definition of communism that was incorporated by Joseph Stalin into the Constitution of the Soviet Union. Mamdani claims he is not a communist, but a democratic socialist. You know who else made that claim? The German Democratic Republic, East Germany, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, North Vietnam, and the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea. Yeah. Am I also positive that Zohran is making promises he can't keep and honestly probably doesn't intend to keep? Also, yes, that's what politics is. I don't know that you can get to where you need to be without making things like that. You know, it's just like, it's not, when you run a campaign based on things you can actually achieve, unfortunately, it doesn't have enough bells and whistles. You know, that's the kind of campaign I was trying to run, a campaign like that was like, this is stuff we can actually do. This is stuff actually within the mayor's power, with the power that I have, if I am in Gracie Mansion, this is what I can do. And I will work tirelessly to do this for you. That I just don't feel like, I don't like to make promises I can't keep, but, he's not the first person who's going to do it. He is also a longtime supporter of the anti-Semitic BDS movement at Bowdoin College. He helped found the campus chapter of the Radical Students for Justice in Palestine, the same group that has roiled colleges across the nation with pro-Hamas protests since the October 7th terrorist attack. Again, that whole sentence. I mean, the fact that he helped found the campus chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine is just helping his cause as many times as you guys pointed out. Like, I know you guys, it's like you're only making people who already weren't going to vote for him not vote for him, but that, like, again, this is the absolute cause of the past like several years in America. This is helping 100%. So I don't know why we keep using it as a weapon. In an interview with Fox News' Martha McCallum last week, Mamdani claimed to have no opinion on whether Hamas, a U.S.-designated terrorist group, should lay down its arms and give up any role in the leadership of Gaza. He later backtracked during a mayoral debate. This man has no business leading New York City, the global center of democratic capitalism and home to the largest Jewish population in America. Well, tell Jewish voters that because they love him. I'm Jewish. I'm voting for him. Louisiana voters had one advantage over New Yorkers today, a clear choice between two awful candidates. In New York, by contrast, Mamdani can win without a majority in a divided field. Mamdani is leading with about 43% support, compared with Cuomo at 29% and perennial Republican candidate Curtis Sliwa at 19%, according to a new AARP Gotham polling survey. In other words, Sliwa and Cuomo are dividing the anti-Mamdani vote. If Sliwa were to drop out, the poll found the race would tighten, with Mamdani ahead 45% to Cuomo's 41% within the margin of error. But Sliwa refuses to step aside, even though he has no chance of winning. The days when New Yorkers would turn to a Republican like former Mayor Rudy Giuliani to clean up the city are long gone. That is why no serious elected Republican entered the mayor's race. Sliwa should have gotten out a long time ago to let Cuomo take on Mamdani mano a mano. Sometimes in a democracy, you don't get to elect the candidate you like. You only get to choose the least worst candidate. And in this race, the least worst candidate is Cuomo. I love how someone who has already done so many bad things is worse than someone who is going to try something new. Like, that's the old fogey, like, point of view I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, someone we know is bad, who has done multiple bad things to multiple groups of people, who has proven himself to be untrustworthy or a guy who no one could find literally anything to attack him on in this whole time. Again, we got sidetracked with the eating thing on the subway, but my point there was I am not taking anything away from how hard Zohran has worked during this campaign, but what I will say is it's been a pretty cushy campaign. Basically, he gained momentum and then he never stopped gaining momentum. There was no point in which he actually, like, something happened where, people stopped liking him, or any attack that there was no attack on him that gained any momentum at all, right? And, as we said, it was $22+ million put into trying to take this guy down. And there was just nothing worse than we could get than the fact that he posted a picture of himself eating a burrito on the subway. And then there was like a private picture of him and his wife eating a $145 a plate sushi dinner, which, as a lot of people pointed out, like for New York restaurants, like $145 is like mid up for, like I'm guessing like an all you can eat or whatever, mid-level sushi, like $145 per person. Like that's not even like close to the most expensive dinner I've had in New York City. Like not even close. What are you talking about? Go to 11 Madison, and that's a $700 plus bill for two people. Worth it. But I mean, can't be going there all the time. So yeah, like it has been, he hasn't really, I'm curious to see when, because it happens to everyone, even Taylor Swift, when people ultimately turn on him for whatever it is, when he does something that makes people unhappy, I think that will be the real test of who he is as a leader, how he handles that, because he just has had a very cushy rise to the top, which is my, which watching it is kind of like, you're like, I want him to win and I want him to do well, but you're like, this is like a little ridiculous. It's just like absolute Beatlemania over this guy. Like it's really crazy. By the way, if you're wondering what happened in Louisiana 3 decades ago, Edwards won. He went on to serve a 4th term as governor, only to be indicted again. I mean, it's like once a cheater, always a cheater. It's like if we, Cuomo is definitely going to do something shitty again, especially, if he wins, especially, which he won't, especially because he knows how much, most of New York fucking hates him, his guts now. And, it's just like dating someone who cheated on you and trying to give him another chance. Like, don't do that. This time, he was found guilty on 17 counts, including racketeering, extortion, fraud, and conspiracy for kickbacks he received for riverboat gambling licenses, including accepting a suitcase stuffed with $400,000 in cash. That's better than like whatever the $100 in the potato chip bag that Eric Adams' campaign was giving out. At least this was amount of money worth getting in trouble over. If you're gonna get in trouble over money, make it a good amount of money. He served 8 years in prison. Did he get to keep the money? Probably not. But electing him was the best decision Louisiana voters ever made. And hard as it is for me to write these words, electing Andrew Cuomo would be the best decision New Yorkers ever made as well. I love this piece because, like, basically his thesis here is electing Zohran Mamdani would be as bad as electing the former Grand Wizard of the KKK. Like, what are we talking about here, guys? I feel like the more we grasp at straws, like, again, like, the more appealing it makes Zohran. Like, it really just, like, and the way that it's driving Republicans wild, like, much better tactic would have been just literally not talking about Zohran at all. That's what you do. And you introduce your own unique policy that is somehow stronger than Zohran's. That would have been the play. Oh, yeah. All right. Going into more municipal stuff. This is from out of Montana. Oh God, my phone is just blowing up with like political text messages. This is another person. This is a friend of mine who's still running for mayor. And like, I don't want to be mean, but I do want to kind of be like, girl, what are you doing? You're just wasting everyone's time and money here. What are you doing? I think she got like 500 votes in the primary. Again, like, amazing try, but if you don't win the primary, you got to really have some momentum to stay to the general. There's got to be a real reason. All right. So, and this, I wanted to also pair the Zohran story with this piece from The Hill about how important Zohran winning is to AOC's future in politics, especially when for last time she endorsed Smile Wiley, who did not win, didn't even come in second. So that wasn't good for her. And that's another problem with endorsements. It's a bit of a gamble for yourself because it's like if you keep endorsing the wrong person, and when I say wrong, I mean the person who doesn't win, it does unfortunately affect you. I think endorsements are like stupid in general. I think it's just like tell people to vote. You can tell people who you are voting for and why, but like giving someone my endorsement, like what does that even mean? Again, so self-indulgent, the whole thing.
Have you seen people flip-flopping their endorsement too?
I mean, like there's people like Hakeem Jeffries who like acted like his endorsement was the most important endorsement in the Democratic Party, and then last minute, I get a couple days ago an email from the New York Times saying Hakeem Jeffries finally did it. It's like, oh, you finally did it when it means absolutely nothing, and when Zohran, in my opinion, is a shoo-in for this role. Like, what are you doing, dude? So I haven't seen people like who flip-flopped. I've seen people who came in late as hell.
Oh no!
Did Jessica Ramos flip-flop? I haven't heard about her since she endorsed Cuomo. That was the end of her political career. And again, such a shame. This woman, Jessica Ramos, is so smart and she knows policy so well. And for her to make a blunder, like endorsing Andrew Cuomo because she was bitter about Zohran absolutely crushing her in this race, that she had no chance of winning any of those candidates. Brad Lander would have crushed her. She had a weak campaign. But again, and again, that just goes to show how little policy or knowledge of policy matters. Because again, like when you look into it, her policy was sharp. And when you listen to all the candidates talk about it, I was not afraid to debate anyone on policy except for Jessica Ramos because she really fucking knew it. And thank God the couple of forums that I was in with Jessica Ramos were on things that she didn't seem to have studied that hard on. So that just worked out in my favor, luckily. But this woman, listen to her on a podcast. She knows her shit, and she destroyed her political career with that in New York. Who flip-flopped, Mike?
I've just seen people moving their vote from Sliwa to Cuomo to be the last second try to swing this thing.
Oh, okay. It's like a strategic one, yeah. I thought you meant people last minute flipping to Mamdani after like calling him some racial slur.
No, I haven't seen too much of that.
Yeah, I mean,
the groveling usually comes after they take office.
Yeah. I'm interested to see like who his staff and stuff is going to be. Obviously, I think Brad Lander will have a very prominent role in it. And maybe
I just hope he hooks up Michael Blake. If anybody deserves it.
I agree. But Michael Blake was on my ballot. I love Michael Blake, and just like my interactions with him in real life, he is firm but kind. He was always very kind to me in all our interactions. I like him a lot. So this is from The Hill. Ocasio-Cortez faces critical moment with Zohran Mamdani. Few politicians have more on the line outside the actual candidates than Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in next week's New York City mayoral election. The New York Progressive has been a staunch supporter of Zohran Mamdani, and I would even staunch since she endorsed him. But if you remember, it took her quite some time to come up with who she was going to endorse because people. She was going between Zohran and Brad Lander, and that took a while. So although when she finally decided to back Zohran, she did so wholeheartedly, she was not She was not at the beginning of that list of endorsements. That's for sure. The New York Progressive has been a staunch supporter of Zohran Mamdani, the 34-year-old Democratic socialist who won the Democratic Party's nomination and is the favorite to win the election. As Ocasio-Cortez eyes a possible New York Senate run and even a presidential bid in 2028, yeah, I kind of feel like Senate is just kind of like a lateral movement for her. I feel like you just got to like go for something bigger. Democrats say Mamdani's successes and failures could either be a huge boost to her or be a drag on a future campaign. I'd say she has more at stake than maybe even than Mamdani because of what she's competing for, said one Democratic strategist, offering a nod to the idea that the 36-year-old Ocasio-Cortez could be the progressive standard bearer as soon as 2028. You know what? I feel like let's do that. I was doing some math in my head too, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, it seems like AOC has no interest in being mayor of New York. She's doing other things. She's on a national level, right? So let's say Zohran wins. Zohran's mayor for 8 years. Then maybe Corinne Fisher, age 48, first female mayor of New York City. It's still possible, guys. We got time. If he has major wins, she'll have major wins. But if he flops, Republicans will inevitably tie her to him, and that could hurt her, the strategist said. Yeah, I mean, their campaigns are so similar. So similar. At the same time, progressives say a Mamdani win would be a significant boost for her. At the stage we're in right now, where Democrats are trying to rebuild the party, you need proof of concept. And for someone like AOC, if she can show that Mamdani is successful not only as a candidate but in governing, that's a real benefit for her. It's a benefit for all young progressive candidates. Democratic strategist Joel Payne said, using an abbreviation for Ocasio-Cortez's last name. People want to demonstrate that their ideas can work at scale. Ocasio-Cortez gave Mamdani her backing before the Democratic primary in June, well ahead of other prominent New York lawmakers who refused to endorse him. But again, behind plenty of other people. Since then, she has been one of the candidate's strongest advocates in what may be a tightening race in the final days of the campaign. A Suffolk University, and sometimes I feel like they just say shit like that to keep us clicking on newspapers, because I just really don't think it's that tight. A Suffolk University poll released Monday showed former Democratic New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is running as an independent after losing the primary, narrowing Mamdani's lead. The poll showed that while Mamdani is still ahead of Cuomo by 10 points, 44% support to 34%, the former governor is gaining, with incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, another Democrat running a third-party campaign, now out of the race. The same poll in September showed Mamdani with a 20-point lead. A separate poll from the Manhattan Institute showed Mamdani with a larger lead, winning 43% of likely voters compared with 28% for Cuomo, while Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa received 19%. The survey showed 8% of those polled were undecided. This weekend, appearing before a crowd of 10,000 people, Ocasio-Cortez spoke out for Mamdani at a rally in Queens alongside Senator Bernie Sanders. She cast Mamdani as part of a powerful progressive movement, punching back at President Trump and Republicans at a time when the establishment wing of the Democratic Party is weak. Yep. I'm talking to you, Donald Trump, Ocasio-Cortez said, before adding, in 9 short days, we will work our hearts out to elect Zohran Mamdani as the next mayor of the great city of New York. The Congress member sought to use the New York mayoral race as an example of what Democrats are facing around the country as they battle Trump and his party. It's not a coincidence that the very forces that Zohran is up against in this race mirrors what we are up against nationally: an authoritarian criminal presidency fueled by corruption and bigotry, and an ascendant right-wing extremist movement, she added. Since winning the Democratic primary this summer, Mamdani has been a foil for Trump and his party, a narrative that has only escalated as Election Day inches closer. If Mamdani wins, it is clear that Republicans and Trump will seek to tie every Democrat in the country to Mamdani. What is equally clear is that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party is feeling ascendant, something reflected in the Mamdani rally in Queens and also in Ocasio-Cortez's own rise as a clear presidential contender. together if she chooses to run. This week, after House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries belatedly endorsed Mamdani after months of holding out, Republicans quickly cast the New York hopeful as the new face of the Democratic Party. Hakeem Jeffries is now all in for the socialist agenda of Mamdani, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise told reporters this week. Mamdani is the head of their party now. When he gets elected mayor of New York, he's giving the marching orders to the rest of the Democrats, and they want to raise taxes on everybody. I think, like, as far as star power, he wins. He is the head of the Democratic Party. Like, I mean, you know, but I think also in many ways, you know, AOC is too. But it's like he's not. I don't think it's going to affect everyone's policy. Like, this is just not the same thing. Trump, who has been very intentional about his targets, has gone after Ocasio-Cortez in recent days. AOC is low IQ. Hilarious for him to say about somebody. Trump told reporters on Air Force One on Monday, if you give her an IQ test, have her pass like the exams that I decided to take when I was at Walter Reed, let AOC go against Trump.
Please, God, tell me you know about this.
I know about it. Like, I know that I saw like AOC's tweet and stuff about the clock. Why? What more information?
So, okay, the test that he bragged about doing so well on.
Okay.
They were asking him about animals. Okay. Like, it was very clearly a dementia test.
Right.
That they told him was an IQ test to get him to take it.
Right. That's what I took from AOC's tweet. Where she talked about like the clock and stuff, like filling the time. It was like for someone who had whose mind was no longer with them. Yeah, I mean,
he's a mental patient. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, also, number one, crazy that Trump is like having some kind of an IQ contest with AOC, and then also, all these people are dumb. Like, I mean, I've never met. I gotta reiterate, guys. I should not have been able to debate policy after studying for a few months, like with people who have been doing these jobs in this city for decades. Like, the easiest part of me running for mayor shouldn't have been me debating other people on policy. I just want to put that out there. I mean, was it a good thing for me? Yes. Was it a good thing, period? No, it was terrifying. I was scared. Like a point would come out of my mouth and I go, I'm scared that I was able to catch up to this. That the hardest part is the pageantry, for sure. And just like having people yell in your face all the time. Some political observers say Ocasio-Cortez will be tied to Mamdani not only because of her strong endorsement of him, but because of their shared political ideology. I mean, because they're both, developmental clients of the DSA. I mean, yeah, they had the same campaign. Just one was the guy, one was the girl. Both politicians are seen as part of the progressive wing of the party who advocate for economic equality, affordability, and access to healthcare, education, and housing. Well, Ocasio-Cortez has also labeled herself a democratic socialist. Last year, the Democratic Socialists of America pulled their endorsement of her, saying she wasn't entirely supportive of their efforts to end the war in Gaza. There's already this concern and this ongoing debate, which is how do Democrats position themselves? And if Mamdani crashes and burns as mayor, will it be easier for Democrats to conclude we need to moderate more and we need to come back to the center? Said Grant Reher, the director of Syracuse University's Campbell Public Affairs Institute. And in that way, AOC's star loses some of its luster, and there may be some blowback. But if Mamdani is successful, other political operatives predict Ocasio-Cortez will use that as fuel. Well, obviously, that's what any smart person would do. As the nationally recognized leader who's trying to move the party forward, a Mamdani win would strengthen her arguments for change, said Democratic strategist Basil Smikle, who served as the executive director of the New York State Democratic Party. You would likely see her hitting the trail more so in forging a new Democratic coalition. I also think with this, Fight the Oligarchs tour that she's been doing with Bernie, like, she's positioning herself very good for a presidential run, right? And a lot of times, especially like because we've just now had our, in the process of, completing our second term with Donald Trump, it would make sense to kind of like overcorrect the other way and go super progressive, and then maybe president after that, we go more in the center, or we keep moving leftward, ideally, but I don't know if that's going to be happening. But the Democratic strategist was skeptical. He has a lot to lose, but she has more to lose, the strategist said. I guess she has more to lose because she's put more time in and she's in a higher position. But I mean, he has a lot to lose too. Like, if he fucks this up, he's done. And that's the end of it. And your political career ended and started, within a 5-year span. All right. This is from Wacko Heidi. This is an idea out of Montana. We're still talking municipal politics. This is from the Montana Free Press. This is a wild one. This is special. Great Falls candidate suggests congregated neighborhood for unhoused as tourist attraction. Again, this is why you guys need to be reading about municipal politics. And it's very interesting because one of the ballot proposals on the, like one of the measures on the ballot that we're voting on here in New York City, on Tuesday or early, if you're a dork, no, kidding, it's great if you voted, is about whether or not we should move municipal elections to the same year as presidential elections. And this is an interesting one because there's really good fights on either side. So the people who are saying, yes, we should move municipal elections to the presidential years, they're just concerned with voter turnout, right? I think Zohran's, is a great counter argument for that, saying like perhaps it's not that voters are lazy, perhaps it's that voters are uninspired and they're not going to turn up to vote if they're not inspired to have a candidate to vote for, right? So I think he's kind of like solving that. And then on the flip side, the reason to vote no on that, which I think I'm going to vote no on this proposal because I agree with this stance more as of now. I'm going to do a little bit more research before I cast my vote. But the no would be because it will take the spotlight off municipal elections. Like, the great thing about having these municipal elections not on a presidential year is that you can really think about who you're voting for mayor, think about who you're voting for city council or controller, public advocate, all of these things. And you have the time and the energy and the funds, right? So it takes away not only energy, articles, attendees for rallies or fundraisers. It also takes away like resources for these municipal candidates. I think that's a stronger argument than just voter turnout, especially because of what we've seen in this mayoral race, where voter turnout does improve if you actually run a fucking good campaign. Again, I'll look into it more. That's what I'm thinking right now, though. But just if you're in New York, just make sure that you are well read on those, because you're going to have to vote on a bunch of things. But I thought that one was particularly interesting because I follow a lot of like progressive news sources that are putting out like, cheat sheets, which again, I hate, because to me, when you put out a cheat sheet that just says vote yes on prop whatever, vote no on prop whatever, with very little explanation, I think it just makes voters more stupid. And lazy. And I think that's not good. You should be informed on what you're voting for and why, and not just because your favorite political Instagram account put out a cheat sheet. Like, I think that sucks. And it's why I will never put out a cheat sheet. I might put out explanations about what these ballot proposals are talking about, but I'm not going to tell you this is what you should vote. I could tell you what I'm voting for, and again, I'm just like talking it out live, but I hate the cheat sheets. Like, it's just like, It just bothers me a lot. And again, for that specific, measure, I've seen a lot of progressives have conflicting thoughts on whether or not to vote yes on that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Also, keep in mind, if it were to change to a presidential year, that would also mean that some elected officials might get one extra or 1 year less, depending in the term that they are elected for. So that's also something to consider. It could change people's term length. During a candidate forum, City Commissioner candidate Pete Anderson said it would turn the homeless issue into a homeless profit. Okay. And this guy's interesting. Okay. I really should just move to another city and end up being the queen of that city. A Great Falls City Commission candidate suggested earlier this week that the city's unhoused population could be served by putting them in a single location as a money-making venture. I think that there is a completely untapped opportunity with, making the homeless issue into a homeless profit, Anderson told the crowd of roughly 60. And there is a tourist attraction just waiting to happen. The comments were made as part of a candidate forum Monday hosted by one of the city's 9 neighborhood councils. It took place at the Alliance for Youth Auditorium and featured the 4 candidates for the city commission and 2 mayoral candidates. Anderson is a construction contractor and is a first-time municipal candidate. He previously campaigned as a Republican for the state legislature, but lost in the primary. The 5th question in the forum asked candidates what the city should do about the unhoused population in Great Falls. Anderson's first words were, wait for it, guys, homeless island. Like it's a reality show hosted by Nikki Glaser. The idea was inspired, he said, by the, quote, poor farms of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, where people with little means could work in exchange for food and shelter. Some of the farms, including those in the north central Montana, became places where people who were deaf, blind, or suffered domestic violence would go as well. Oh, he really did some research here. Anderson, who said he was just spitballing ideas, that's a direct quote, suggested that the unhoused could have shelters built and sponsored by local businesses. It could be like those you ever see like the hotel rooms where one of the rooms is in the lobby and it's a completely glass walls and it's like kind of like an art installation where people can watch you live in your hotel room. It's like that, but for homeless people. Suggested the unhoused could have shelters built and sponsored by local businesses. Unhoused, brought to you by IKEA, that would put up their signs as advertising. Oh, my God. And the neighborhood residents would attract visitors by selling goods that they make. So now it's a little bit Amish country, too. Wow.
You're not going to get kettle corn while watching the homeless? That's crazy.
I mean, this is I love an idea. Was this guy on coke at the forum? And what would bring in tourism is you could have a constant live market at all times, Anderson said. I mean, the thing about this is it's like not that long ago, we had things like human zoos where like if you were from a culture that people were unfamiliar with around these parts, you would just sit and people would gawk at you. So like, just remember that we're not that far away from this. So it's like crazy, but also like this is embedded in who we are. In a follow-up interview Wednesday with Montana Free Press, Anderson said it was a bit of a harebrained idea. What?
Just, you were asking if this guy was on coke? Mm-hmm. You tell me.
I looked at him. He looks more like he's on psychedelics than coke, honestly, by the looks of them.
Fair.
Those glasses say psychedelics more than cocaine.
Yeah, but I mean, cocaine also can mess with your eyesight. I'm just, look, the big ring on the middle finger and cargo pants at a city council meeting.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Yeah.
And also, he doesn't look like someone who would pitch a homeless tourist attraction either. So really can't judge a book by its cover. He looks like a Zohran voter.
Yeah, but he also does look like he would be the guy running the homeless guy farm. You know what I mean?
He has a little carny in him, sure.
Yeah.
But the basic premise was to find a model that provides housing and generates self-sustaining revenue rather than relying on grant funding. That money would go towards maintenance and basic services for the people in the neighborhood, he said. Like, there was a way to kind of pitch an idea where the unhoused can somehow produce profit. Like, you know, if you had some kind of a program where they learned to craft and then they created some kind of a good that you could purchase. Like, there was a way to ethically do this. He did not get to that idea, nor do I think that that's the best idea. But like there could have been a way. I see what he's saying, right? Like let us help us help you kind of a thing. Like how can you guys make profit that will somehow make you not homeless? Like I see where he's getting at. This was just such a wild fucking pitch to get there. This is why you got to be reading municipal articles. They're not, you know, as crazy as things get nationally. This is even wilder. I think if it gives them money and it's not degrading, then I'm all for it, he said. Babe, it is degrading. Hate to break it to you, it's definitely degrading. Great Falls has approximately 202 people living outdoors. I mean, can't we handle that? That's a low-ass number. Yeah, you should have it in the budget to be able to handle that with like portable homes. Get those homes that you can order off Amazon. In emergency shelters or in transitional housing, according to the annual point-in-time count conducted by the Continuum of Care Coalition. Let me add it. I got to go run for mayor of Great Falls. 202, you could solve that. That number was less than half the population recorded in Bozeman and Missoula and less than that of Billings. Great Falls Public Schools reported that more than 400 students in the district could be considered homeless. United Way of Cascade County President Gary Owen is the local coordinator for the Continuum of Care Coalition. After reviewing Anderson's comments, Owen shared an emailed statement. At United Way of Cascade County, we believe every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their housing status. Homelessness is a complex issue with no one-size-fits-all solution, and it impacts individuals and families from all walks of life, including children, veterans, and people facing mental health challenges. We welcome thoughtful, compassionate engagement from all community members and leaders. We encourage conversations and solutions that are rooted in evidence-based practices and uphold the humanity of every individual, his statement read in part. Owen added that the United Way coordinates with 30 local nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and government agencies to support unhoused residents, and that these efforts have shown success. The community has interacted with the unhoused population in various ways. This past summer, concerns about the visible presence of unhoused people prompted additional police foot patrols downtown as business owners voiced safety concerns. I like how they've interacted with them in various ways by going, ew, there's a homeless person by me, get him away. That was the interaction. In 2022.
Solid Montana accent.
I wasn't even doing an accent, but thank you. In 2022, Midwest is hard. I can't really do a Midwest. In 2022, the city of Great Falls, and that's not even Midwest. Like, what is that? What do you even call that? Up?
What? Montana?
Is that Midwest accent? Like, what are the accents up there?
Oh, I don't know.
It's one of the few states I've never been to. In 2022, the city of Great Falls forced the eviction of an encampment of unhoused people at First United Methodist Church downtown. The city filed a lawsuit against the church for violating the city's zoning restrictions regarding camping. In September, stakeholders cut the ribbon on the Bats Block Supportive Housing Project. The project provides on-site behavioral and health care to residents who may have been on the edge of homelessness, offering a stable environment that meets their health and housing needs at one site. The project was possible through the efforts of multiple public and private organizations and a long list of funding sources. On Tuesday, NeighborWorks Great Falls Executive Director Sherry Ari told Great Falls City Commissioners that the 24 apartments at Bots had been officially leased. As for Anderson's proposals, he suggested the site of Maroney Park, the former site of the city's demolished indoor pool just east of downtown. The park is being redeveloped and has recently opened a playground with accessible equipment. Anderson's opponents also offered their takes on interacting with unhoused populations. I don't like the interacting with unhoused populations. Seems like it like really is wording it like it's a fucking zoo. Like, what are we talking about? Like, interacting? Joe McKenney, the incumbent commission candidate, lauded the work of the Continuum of Care Coalition and acknowledged the struggles associated with addiction and mental health challenges, but also said he felt he could get a minimum wage job, some roommates, and secure housing within 6 months if my brain worked and I wasn't addicted. Really great quotes coming out of all the people here. Commission candidate Casey Schreiner said that it's unacceptable to have people freeze to death outside in the winter and that the commission represents those people. All right, finally someone who's actually sounding like someone who cares. When you represent the commission, you represent everybody who's here, he said. It's not just the people who are housed here, it's the people within the city limits, and that includes people who don't have a roof over their heads. All right, now we're talking. Matt Pipinich, the fourth commission candidate, said that unhoused people shouldn't be viewed as an other group. He talked about a woman who died in the cold and lost her home because her husband had died. Everyone could be a few unfortunate steps away from losing housing stability, he said. All of these topics need to be carried with some great compassion because these are other human beings, Pipinich said. There are neighbors, there are friends, and on the commission, there are constituents as well. Got to get that homeless vote. I love how they're always thinking about that. But yeah, they are their constituents. Corey Reeves, the incumbent mayoral candidate, talked about his interactions with Larry Kidrowski, a well-known Great Falls man who lived on the streets and stacked belongings onto grocery carts. During Reeves' time as a police officer, he said he would have Kidrowski over for meals and help him get to appointments. Kidrowski died in 2018. Reeves used the example as a call for compassion. I'm not saying everyone needs to run out and adopt a homeless person. Oh my God, guys. Jesus Christ, the language. But can you imagine if the entire community went and met someone downtown and took them under their wings and helped enrich their lives? Reeves said. I mean, basically, like, yeah, I don't think adopt a homeless person maybe was the language, but basically, like, you could sponsor, like, you could sponsor a homeless person. Maybe is that any better? Like, when you only have 202 homeless people within your city boundaries, like, you guys can come together and solve that as a community. That's a very low number. Jasmine Taylor, the mayoral challenger, called for practical solutions such as a public restroom facility downtown. That has been a long-time suggestion from current city commissioner Shannon Wilson. In addition to continued support for organizations that work with unhoused individuals, Taylor said that a more fundamental shift in attitude is needed. If we continue to vilify those individuals or treat them as if they are not worthy of help, then we as a community will not address the core problem, she said. Ballots in the all-mail election are due by November 4th at 8 p.m. Voters can choose one mayoral candidate and 2 commission candidates on their ballots. Find out more about the municipal election here. And I mean, there's a clickable link, but if you live in Great Falls, Montana, make sure you're voting. I mean, maybe we should get this guy on the show who's pitching these crazy ideas. Oh my God. Thank you for sending that in, Heidi. That was really something else. All right, now let's move on to a Cuties Corner. This is also just like one of the kind of a big story of shit that Trump has done this week. But because it's wildlife related, I made it a Cuties Corner. This is...
Welcome to Cuties Corner! Yay!
Also, when you have a sec, can you turn the air off in here? I'm gonna catch a cold. Thank you. The Trump administration opens the entire coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to oil and gas leasing. At the expense of communities and our climate, the massive public lands attack auctions off treasured lands in the nation's largest wildlife refuge to benefit fossil fuel companies. This is from Elizabeth Manning at Earth Justice. Anchorage, Alaska. Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum today announced that he will open the entire 1.56 million acres of the coastal plain of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to oil and gas leasing. These lands are sacred to the Gwich'in Nation, home to irreplaceable wildlife, wilderness, and cultural values, and have never seen industrialization. In an action taken, this is Black Phone 3. I mean, Jesus Christ. In an action taken during a government shutdown, the Department of Interior held a press conference to announce a series of resource development actions aimed at opening up Alaska for the benefit of corporate polluters. A key announcement made today was the rescission of the Biden administration's drilling program for the refuge. The Department of the Interior, the DOI, is instead replacing that program with a previous Trump-era plan that fully opens the coastal plain of the refuge to maximum oil and gas development. In addition to the refuge announcement, Secretary Burgum also announced that DOI has completed the land exchange, which will allow a road to cut through the Izembik National Wildlife Refuge. Secretary Burgum also announced the issuance of right-of-way permits and another permit allowing the Ambler Road to be built to build potential new mines. The proposed Ambler Road is a financial boondoggle that has been opposed by 88 Alaska Native tribes and First Nations and will cause substantial harm to wildlife, including caribou. The move to open the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge's coastal plan to oil and gas leasing also follows a Congressional Review Act resolution introduced earlier this month by Representative Nick Begich, a Republican from Arkansas, that would accomplish the same thing, overturning the Biden administration's previous record of decision for oil and gas leasing in the refuge. Simultaneously, DOI announced it is reaffirming unlawful coastal plain leases issued to the State of Alaska-sponsored corporation, the Alaska Industrial Development and Export Authority, covering about 370,000 acres within the coastal plain. With Alaska's Arctic warming 3 to 5 times faster than the rest of the planet, the climate consequences of expanded Arctic oil and gas drilling will be disastrous for Alaska's communities as well as Americans nationwide. Communities and infrastructure in Alaska are at risk from thawing permafrost, the loss of sea ice, and rapid coastal erosion, with communities in Alaska and elsewhere suffering devastation and in some cases having to relocate due to intensified storms linked to climate change. These climate impacts also come with dire economic consequences that the government is not adequately factoring in its decision-making. In addition, few companies have expressed interest in bidding on these leases, resulting in those that do go up for sale generating far less than the income touted by the Trump administration. Earth Justice's statement in response to today's actions, quote, "Today's Arctic refuge announcement puts America and Alaska last," said Earth Justice attorney Eric Graff. "Expanding oil drilling in the Arctic threatens irreplaceable wildlife and cultural traditions that exist nowhere else in the world. It worsens the climate crisis and undermines energy security by seeking to lock in reliance on fossil fuels. The Gwich'in people, most Americans, and even major banks and insurance companies know the Arctic refuge is no place to drill. Today's decision by the Trump administration is irresponsible as a policy matter, a poor economic decision, and flouts laws that protect this irreplaceable landscape." Great. Really great stuff, guys. Really great stuff. And let's get into could be worse. I hate to even have like a title to a segment like that lighthearted, because these could be worses are always like so bad. But I'd be remiss if I wasn't talking about Sudan, because again, like it's hard when there's so much, when there's multiple genocides going on at once. I feel like they're all not going to get covered. But since I feel like a bunch of other people got Gaza covered. I can cover Sudan here because I literally see no one talking about Sudan. We've talked about it a couple times on here, but yeah.
The only time I ever heard people talking about Sudan is for them to say no one's talking about Sudan. That seems to be the common refrain.
I've literally not heard anyone talk about it.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Well, it's you and Godfrey, the only two people I've heard talk about it, and the statement from both has been no one's talking about this god awful genocide.
Well, and I know, and it's also like, but the thing is, we know. Again, we've talked. I'm almost like, I hate to say this, but I'm like almost impressed how long Gaza has held people's attention, especially in America. It's really like impressive that it has held people's attention that long. But we came off of Ukraine and went to Gaza, and no one talks about Ukraine. No, I'm saying as far as what we are focused on, like no one talks about Ukraine anymore. The only time I even am reminded of Ukraine is when I pass by Vasilka. Like it's just people don't talk about it anymore. Like sometimes it'll like come up like in a little bit if you're watching like politicians debate or something, but it just really doesn't come up anymore.
I mean, I get an update on him once every 2-3 weeks because Trump is making moves one way or another.
Well, right, yeah, that's why it was coming up, but it was like we have a one crisis at a time attention span.
Do you know what is going on? Like, do you alluded earlier to. You alluded earlier to there being genocides that we are, in some way, shape, or form supporting. Do you know, is there American involvement in this one?
In Sudan, like financially? I actually don't. And, that would be another reason why people are more concentrating on Gaza because we have a direct financial link to that. But again, when it comes to like the international courts, like all the big players in the international courts, whether we're funding or not funding the genocide, we need to be aware of the genocide because we're the countries that have the power to stop the genocide. Sudan genocide, American fiscal involvement. Let's see. American financial involvement regarding the genocide in Sudan includes imposing sanctions on the perpetrators, providing humanitarian aid to victims, and holding foreign companies with past ties to the former Sudanese regime accountable. Are we providing largest human? It seems more like we're providing aid. In 2024, the U.S. was Sudan's largest humanitarian donor, providing over $661 million. This funding was critical for emergency food assistance and water for millions of Sudanese. So I don't think we're like paying for weapons, but we are spending money on it.
Yeah, but is it to like?
It's to help them though.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is what you would hope is happening. But again, like humanitarian aid, it's like is lovely, but like what you really need to go is head to international court and be like, fucking stop this. That's what really needs to be happening. This is from Al Jazeera. A true genocide. RSF kills at least 1,500 people in Sudan's El Fasher. Regional countries express alarm as more evidence emerges of mass killings by paramilitary forces in Al Fasher. Sorry, I should have looked up how to properly say this. Because I'm going to have to say it a lot. No, tell me how to say it. Oh, God.
El Fasher.
Oh, just really American. El Fasher. Okay. All right. Scores of people have been killed in attacks by Rapid Support Forces, that's RSF, during their recent capture of the city of El Fasher in Sudan's western Darfur region, according to a medical group and researchers. The RSF, which has been fighting Sudan's military for control of the country, killed at least 1,500 people over the past 3 days as civilians tried to flee the besieged city, the Sudan Doctors Network said on Wednesday. The group, which tracks the city the country's civil war, described the situation as a true genocide. The massacres the world is witnessing today are an extension of what occurred in El Fasher more than a year and a half ago, when over 14,000 civilians were killed through bombing, starvation, and extrajudicial executions, the group said. If it said the attacks are being carried out as part of a deliberate and systematic campaign of killing and extermination. The statement comes as new evidence of mass killings in the strategic area has emerged from Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab, which reported that satellite imagery of El Fasher, taken after the RSF moved in, shows clusters of objects consistent with the size of human bodies, as well as large areas of red discoloration on the ground. The RSF has been locked in a bloody civil war with Sudan's army since 2023, in a conflict that has killed tens of thousands and displaced more than 12 million people. The paramilitary force overran Al Fasher, the army's last stronghold in Darfur, on Sunday after 7 months of siege. The Sudanese government said on Wednesday that at least 2,000 people have been killed in the city since then, while aid agencies say they have received credible reports of atrocities, including summary executions, attacks on civilians along escape routes, and house-to-house raids. Sexual violence, particularly against women and girls, was also reported in the city, they said. Al Fasher's fall puts the RSF in near full control of the vast region of Darfur and has raised concerns of another split of Sudan more than a decade after South Sudan's creation. Sudan's army-aligned government also accused the RSF on Wednesday of attacking civilians in mosques during their recent takeover of the city. More than 2,000 civilians were killed during the militia's invasion of El Fasher, targeting volunteers in mosques and the Red Crescent. Mona Noor Al-Dayam, a humanitarian aid officer for the Sudanese government, said. Al Jazeera's Hiba Morgan, reporting from Khartoum, said videos on social media taken by the RSF showed fighters shooting at civilians attempting to flee. The latest and most disturbing video to surface was one of the fighters roaming through what has been identified as the Saudi hospital in the city of El Fasher, executing patients, Morgan said. Survivors who fled the city said at least 500 people had been seeking refuge in the hospital. Among those killed were health workers, Morgan added. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, I feel like I made that Italian, but it's not, Director General of the World Health Organization, said more than 460 people were killed at the Saudi maternity hospital. He said the WHO was appalled and deeply shocked by the reports. The Sudan Doctors Network said RSF fighters on Tuesday cold-bloodedly killed everyone they found inside the Saudi hospital, including patients, their companions, and everyone else present in the wards. Regional alarm. Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and Jordan have condemned the abuses committed by the RSF in Sudan. Saudi Arabia expressed deep concern over grave human rights violations and urged the RSF to protect civilians. Egypt called for an immediate humanitarian truce and pledged continued support to help Sudan overcome the crisis. Turkey demanded an end to hostilities in Al Fasher and safe passage for humanitarian aid, while condemning atrocities against civilians and urging dialogue for a peaceful solution. Qatar also denounced the horrific violations and called for negotiations to end the conflict. Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar reaffirmed their support for Sudan's unity and sovereignty. Jordan likewise condemned the violence and called for restraint and an urgent ceasefire to protect civilians. The RSF has not addressed the allegations against it. The paramilitary force grew out of the notorious government-linked militia known as the Janjaweed, which carried out genocide during the Darfur conflict in the 2000s. The United States has also declared that the RSF and its allies have committed genocide in the current war. Unprecedented violence. Separately on Tuesday, Yale's HRL published a report relying on satellite imagery that said the RSF forces were conducting alleged mass killings after seizing al-Fasher. Nathaniel Raymond, HRL's executive director, described the violence in al-Fasher as unprecedented. The scale is immense, from the earthen berm, the wall that now surrounds al-Fasher, to specific neighborhoods such as Daraha Ula, to hospitals and humanitarian facilities. We are seeing objects that measure between 1.5 to 2 meters, which is 5 to 6.5 feet, which is the standard length of a human body, lying horizontal, as seen in satellite imagery at high resolution, he told Al Jazeera. Those objects were not there 36 to 48 hours ago. They now litter the city. The researcher warned that the killings were a preview of what could happen in other areas of Darfur and North Kordofan province as RSF forces moved to the east of the country with the fall of al-Fasher. Ahmed Ibrahim, a former staffer of the transitional government under Sudanese Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok, said the RSF was meant to be integrated into the national army, but due to geopolitical reasons and internal politics, this did not happen. Many bets were on the RSF militia to take over the resources of the country and replace the national army and take over the whole country, Ibrahim told Al Jazeera. The timeline of this integration and the RSF's new leadership were the main points of contention that led to this war, he said. According to Ibrahim, the war has been taking place as Sudan's rare earth minerals and long Red Sea line were being utilized to export livestock and other resources to East African countries as an attempt to strip Sudan of its national resources. This is not just a power struggle between two generals, Ibrahim said. This is part of a geopolitical attempt to restructure the region. So that's just something lighthearted, just to think about if you weren't already upset. And just to cleanse your palate from that could be worse, I do have another piece of international news. This one, however, I would categorize as could be better because, as I said earlier, Ireland has elected a left-wing president in an anti-government landslide. This is from Politico. Catherine Connolly's lopsided victory to be Ireland's next head of state was accompanied by a surge in vandalized ballots from white right-wing voters. And it's also interesting, yet another thing to point out as far as, could be better is all these countries, electing in landslides female heads, right? Japan just did it. Yes, she's super conservative, but she's a woman. So I just think it's interesting. Again, every other country really quite fine with electing women. America, not so much. Not on a municipal level, in New York, not on a federal level. Dublin, independent socialist Catherine Connolly swept to a landslide victory Saturday to become Ireland's next president, dealing a record-breaking rebuke to the two center ground parties of government. And that's interesting because maybe socialism is the next thing. Maybe I've been saying for a long time, I feel like the socialists should just make their own third party, but kind of, in America, but maybe this is the start of that. We got Catherine Connolly in Ireland. We got Zohran Mamdani in NYC. Jubilant supporters of the 68-year-old Connolly, a lawmaker, and that's, pretty old in what has become, super ageist politics. A lawmaker from the western city of Galway embraced and kissed her as final results from Friday's election were announced at the Dublin Castle Count Centre. In her victory speech, Connolly struck an immediate note for unity. She stood side by side with Ireland's government leaders and pledged to challenge the far right and its anti-immigrant agenda. Together, we can shape a new republic that values everybody, that values and champions diversity and the new people that have come to our country, she said. I will be an inclusive president for all of you. Connolly won a record 63.4% of valid votes. Heather Humphreys of the Government Coalition Party, Fine Gael, finished a distant second with 29.5%. Connolly's triumph shattered the previous record, set in 1959, when Eamon de Valera, the towering figure of 20th century Irish politics, won his first term as president with 56.3% support. And she beat that by a lot with 63.4. On November 11th, Connolly will succeed her fellow Galway socialist Michael D. Higgins, Ireland's president since 2011, who was constitutionally barred from seeking a third 7-year term. I was like, that's kind of a long time to be president. Finishing in third and last place Saturday was Jim Gavin of the largest government party, Fianna Fáil, who won barely 7% of votes. Gavin, a political novice handpicked by Prime Minister Michael Martin, remains on the official ballot despite quitting the race midway after admitting he had pocketed 3,300 euros in excess rent from a tenant. I mean, again, if you're going to be stealing, make it worth it. Connolly won in no small part thanks to backing from Ireland's 5 left-wing parties, most crucially Sinn Féin. Sorry, I'm butchering these.
Sinn Féin.
Sinn Féin. I was like, I'm messing these up. All stood aside to give her a clean run on an anti-government platform, a political first for the normally fractious left. While the left celebrated from Dublin Castle
That's wild to me that that's considered the left-wing party, as they were the military arm of they were the political arm of the IRA. That's just crazy to me that that's considered left-wing in Ireland now. It's like the guys who were putting bombs in trash cans 30 years ago are now.
But things change. Yeah, I mean Ireland's pretty progressive in their viewpoints. I mean, like what I hear out of Ireland, obviously there's, people who are conservative everywhere. While the left celebrated because it's like sometimes you'll hear like some crazy news about abortion, but then they'll do other stuff that's like super left wing. While the left celebrated from Dublin Castle to Galway, Ireland's disgruntled conservatives left their own mark on the election by vandalizing their ballots in unprecedented numbers. I guess every country loves the word unprecedented now. More than 200,000 ballots, or about 1 of every 8 cast, had to be discarded. Many voters had written in the names of their own invalid choices or drawn disparaging X marks across all 3 candidates. Ooh, good use of your vote and time. Others defaced their ballots, often with anti-immigrant messages expressed in nativist or racist terms. So again, when we talk about in our American-centric minds, like when we think that America's the only place where bad stuff is happening and racist people live, remember things like this. There's pieces of shit everywhere. Their alienation reflects how the government parties, do you know how to say this one? Fianna Fáil? And Fine Gael.
No, I don't know what
Since the 1990s have largely ditched their previous bonds with Catholic conservatism and have become, like Connolly and the wider left, socially progressive and welcoming to immigrants. See, yeah, like it says right here, they've largely ditched, like things have just changed a lot. And a lot of parties have ditched their Catholic conservatism roots. A Catholic conservative, Maria Steen, narrowly failed to qualify for the ballot, falling too short of the required backing from 20 lawmakers. Mixed martial arts fighter Conor McGregor, who often denounces immigrants in his social media posts, tapped out after attracting virtually no official support. That's crazy. I didn't even know he was running. Kevin Cunningham, managing director of the polling firm Ireland Thinks, called the volume of spoiled votes enormous. He found that more than 2/3 of protesting voters had expressed support for Steen. The final week of campaigning coincided with one of the biggest flare-ups of racist sentiment since downtown Dublin was racked by rioting in November 2023. On Tuesday and Wednesday nights, crowds of up to 2,000 people clashed with riot police protecting City West, a hotel and conference center southwest of Dublin that has turned into the state's biggest shelter for asylum seekers. That area registered one of the highest rates of spoiled ballots. And on Friday, Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou McDonald, who had opted not to seek the presidency herself, was subjected to vulgar threats from an anti-immigration activist as she canvassed in her central Dublin constituency for Connolly. That man, who, of course, posted video footage of his verbal assault on McDonald and other Sinn Féin canvassers, was arrested Saturday. Humphreys, who had stepped into the breach when Fine Gael's original candidate, former European Commissioner Mairead McGuinness, quit the race, citing health problems, conceded defeat hours before the official result. Humphreys, too, expressed worries about the rising level of social media-driven harassment. Humphreys, a member of the Republic of Ireland's tiny Protestant minority, said she hadn't regretted running despite suffering a barrage of online insults belittling her family's background. She said that vitriol had demonstrated that her country wasn't yet ready to reconcile and potentially unite as Irish nationalists want, with Protestants in the neighboring UK territory of Northern Ireland. My family and I were subject to some absolutely awful sectarian abuse. As a country, I thought we had moved on from that, Humphrey said. If we're ever to have a united Ireland, we have to respect all traditions. Same bullshit everywhere. All right, let's get into girl and our main story. Oh my goodness. This is not my main story, but it's a sorry. I didn't know the microphone was not fully in here. But this is something I was interested in talking about. I hate to say excited because I'm not excited. I'm not happy, but excited as in like I want to talk about it about it with you because it involves Kat Abughazaleh, whose congressional race in Illinois we've been following a lot on here. And oh yeah, everyone's following me on Instagram. I think I told you guys, but I got Zohran followed me, Kat Abughazaleh followed me. We got everyone following me. So I don't know if people are listening to this. Zoran's team reached out to me. You know, they reached out to me like 3 hours before they needed me to do something, and I was like, I'm not that available, guys. I know I conceded from the race, but I'm not available 3 hours, a mere 3 hours in advance. I mean, Jesus, I'm still a New Yorker. Stop disrespecting me like that. You're worse than the mouse in my kitchen right now. Walking around in my garbage, just eating my leftover Taco Bell, just having a fucking. And I was like, honestly, you guys, I know I love animals. I would buy the mouse Taco Bell if he would just take the taco and bring it back to his little mouse house. He doesn't need to traipse all over my stuff, bite holes in my bags. It's rude. But this is the time of year. I live on the bottom floor, and as soon as it gets cold, I just get a mouse visit. I've just come to expect it, really. Maybe I should hang a stocking for him or something. All right, so this is from the Chicago Sun-Times. I heard about this happening directly from Kat Abughazaleh. I mean, she didn't call me, but I saw it on her social media. But then I wanted to pull an article from a local thing. All right, so feds charge Kat Abughazaleh, other political candidates in indictment tied to Broadview protests. So again, this is part of Trump's playbook. People who go against what he wants, especially when they're gaining momentum in their races or in the position that they're already in, that they have been fairly elected to. If he can't get them not to be elected, he makes sure that they get in some kind of legal trouble. This is what he does. This is not surprising. It's not surprising to me, and it wasn't surprising to Kat. The indictment alleges that the six were among a group who surrounded a government vehicle near the Broadview ICE facility September 26th, but the case also raises constitutional concerns targeting Democrats who have opposed the Trump administration deportation campaign known as Operation Midway Blitz. So you have a lot of stuff going on here, and it's like getting closer and closer to Trump basically being like, you legally can't protest, Federal prosecutors in Chicago drew swift criticism Wednesday, with the unsealing of a grand jury indictment that charges 6 people, including congressional candidate and social media influencer Kat Abughazaleh, with conspiring to impede a federal officer in Broadview. It's also like social media influence. I mean, she's like a journalist. I mean, social media, like she was in charge of like social media journalism for Mother Jones, but I feel like social media influencer is like a little derogatory. The charges stem from a protest last month outside the western suburbs U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility. Video of the incident shows Abughazaleh and several others crowding and pushing against a black SUV, slowing its approach toward the facility. But the case also raises constitutional concerns, targeting Democrats who have opposed the Trump administration deportation campaign known as Operation Midway Blitz. The defendants each face a conspiracy charge carrying a maximum prison sentence of 6 years. I was like, yeah, this is like serious fucking business. And you know, he's going to do whatever it takes to get some corrupt judge to oversee these trials. Charged with Abughazaleh, 26, are Catherine Sharp, 29, who is running for a Cook County board seat and serves as chief of staff to Andre Vasquez, Brian Straw, 38, an Oak Park trustee, and Michael Rabbit, 62, a 45th Ward Democratic Committee person. Also charged are Andre Martin, 27, and Jocelyn Walsh, 31. And this was interesting because we've seen a lot of people across the country pushing back on ICE, right? And so obviously it makes sense that Trump's going to try to get people in legal trouble. You know, and this is a man who is pardoning January 6 rioters left and right. But obviously anyone running for office who got in, a kerfuffle with any of the ICE members, they're getting huge conspiracy charges against them. An initial appearance and arraignment for the group has been set for November 5th before U.S. Magistrate Judge Heather McShane. U.S. Attorney Andrew Boutros said in a statement that all federal officials must be able to discharge the duties of their office without confronting force, intimidation, or threats, which is hilarious because they are the force, intimidation, and threats. As we have warned repeatedly, we will seek to hold accountable those who cross the line from peaceful protests to unlawful actions or conspiracies that interrupt, hinder, or impede the due administration of justice. And there was a lot of coverage of this on Kat's campaign Instagram and everything when this happened, and she got thrown to and of course she got thrown to the ground, and then there was tons of videos of her getting thrown to the ground and stuff, and it's happened to so many people, and it's not okay. But when we're talking earlier about performative stuff when you're running for office, this was very similar to things that we saw both Zohran Mamdani and Brad Lander do, where you're scooting to the front of the line to yell at Tom Homan, or you're, fighting back against immigration officers. Again, things that I think these people all stand behind ethically, but did they get a little, sassier and a little perhaps more active physically in these situations than they would have had they not been running for office, because it's not as good to go to jail or to be charged with conspiracy, if it's not a way to fundraise or to get more people on your side and to get more articles written about your campaign, right? So do I believe that these people's hearts are actually in the right place, and do they actually think that ICE is completely fucked up? Yes, I 100% believe that. But do I also think that it was a campaign strategy to, get knocked down by ICE or to have some altercation happen and then to monetize and talk about that? Also, yes. And this is stuff when Trump does stuff like this, it's it's scary because these people could actually go to jail. But also, this is great for Kat's campaign. This is great for her campaign. It's not great monetarily because it'll drain her funds a bit. And, she's now fundraising because she now also needs defense money. But this is just putting more eyes on her campaign and elevating her to true hero status. So it's great for her campaign. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche also said, no one is above the law and no one has the right to obstruct it. And as we talked about time and time again, it's okay, if everything's going to be a publicity stunt, at least let's have representatives who are willing to get down, get dirty, and get conspiracy charges and get thrown to the ground. Right? It's better than people who just only fraternize with other rich people and make decisions for their contractor friends. The case has been assigned to U.S. District Judge April Perry, who made headlines earlier this month when she blocked the Trump administration from deploying National Guard troops within Illinois. She found that the administration's perception of events around Chicago is simply unreliable. So that's good. That's good for Kat. Abughazaleh on Wednesday called the indictment a political prosecution, 100% agree, and a gross attempt at silencing dissent, 100% agree, a right protected under the First Amendment. Straw said that the Justice Department's decision to seemingly handpick public officials like me for standing up against these inhumane policies will not deter me from fulfilling my oath of office. Sharp attorney Molly Armour called the charges ludicrous and an effort by the Trump administration to frighten people out of participating in protests and exercising their First Amendment rights. Yes, and I think it's also to frighten people out of running for office, okay? That's what we're going to see. When these young progressive people run with ideas he doesn't like, he's going to start finding ways to attack them through his administration. And yes, it as 100% is a fear tactic. Don't fight back, because most people don't want to put up with getting arrested and fighting a conspiracy charge, quite honestly. That's too much for most people. And if that now comes along with protesting, if that now comes along in the package of the already very difficult package of running for office, less people are going to do it, especially people who don't have the financial resources to help themselves if they need to be helped, right? So this is, again, just this really is a crazy political persecution. Rabbit's attorney, Nancy DiPodesta, said only that we are extremely disappointed to learn of the charges. Mr. Rabbit intends to plead not guilty and will have more to say about this matter at a later time. The criticism of the case was not limited to the defendants and their lawyers. Evanston Mayor Daniel Bliss, one of Abughazaleh's many opponents in Illinois' 9th District congressional race, insisted that the Trump administration is targeting protesters, including political candidates, in an effort to silence dissent and scare residents into submission. Yeah, of course he wanted to say that. I mean, again, do I believe that he feels this way? Yes, but is he also let me hop on and defend Kat so I can get a mention in an article and also be a hero? Yes, also that. The only people engaged in violent and dangerous behavior at Broadview have been ICE, Biss added. Biss, who has also protested at Broadview, said federal agents fired a chemical agent toward him and other protesters on September 9th. Let me reread that. Biss, who also needed a little bit of press, said that, hey, I got hurt too. Cook County Assessor Fritz Kagi and Illinois Senator Laura Fine, also running for Schakowsky's seat, were among those joining in the chorus. Kagi called the indictment the latest escalation in the Trump administration's targeting of political opponents. Fine called it partisan and unethical. It's unusual criticism for federal prosecutors in Chicago, but the kind that seemed inevitable given President Donald Trump's handling of the Justice Department. Some candidates might also see a political benefit in criticizing the indictment, with many offering that they too have participated in protests at Broadview. Schakowsky, who has steered clear of commenting on the crowded race to succeed her, told the Sun-Times in a statement that the indictments are an alarming abuse of power. Targeting individuals for exercising their rights is an attack on the very foundation of our democracy, Schakowsky said. We must reject any effort to use our justice system as a weapon against free expression and democratic values. Other prosecutions stemming from Trump's deportation campaign are already being hotly contested at the Dirksen Federal Courthouse, with defense attorneys insisting on speedy trials and questioning the Fed's tactics. Abughazaleh has urged her supporters to join protests at Broadview, and she included footage of being pushed to the ground by an ICE agent in a recent campaign ad. Because, of course, you're not going to not do that. On September 19th, Abughazaleh posted 2 videos on social media that showed federal agents both dragging her and shoving her to the ground. In one, she is sitting cross-legged on the ground with a poster when an agent picks her up and drags her away. In another, she is seen walking in front of an ICE vehicle and is lifted up by an agent and pushed to the ground. The fall is accompanied by a loud thump. This is what it looks like when ICE violates our First Amendment rights, Abughazaleh wrote. Abughazaleh told the Chicago Sun-Times that day that she had been thrown to the ground twice by ICE agents and was helping another protester when an agent lifted her by her chest, carried her, and threw her onto the asphalt. I wasn't surprised, and that's part of why we're here, Abughazaleh said. Everyone here is at least a little bit scared, but mostly I'm angry and we need to get the facility shut down. In another social media video, she detailed bruises with Illinois State Police, or brushes with Illinois State Police, saying she was beaten by batons by state forces while our friends were being arrested. Yeah, I mean, any of the ICE footage that I've seen has been, whether it be with, political hopefuls or not, have been absolutely fucking brutal. Really, really brutal stuff. All right. Our main story is about, of course, the SNAP benefits that, all I'm seeing on my timeline right now are people getting together Halloween trick-or-treater baskets and including, macaroni and cheese and Chef Boyardee and granola bars and cheese and just stuff that, to actually feed people instead of Halloween being the whimsical holiday that it should be, because we're in such trouble right now in America. So that is pretty sad. Pretty sad. This is from USA Today. Government shutdown latest. Senators scramble as SNAP benefits set to expire for the first time. Standalone bills meant to address shutdown pain points such as expiring funding for food stamps and military pay have continued to fail. Washington, funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, aka SNAP, commonly known as food stamps, will lapse on November 1st, the first time in the program's 60-year history, as the consequences of the government shutdown spread across the country. That's why lawmakers have started proposing more standalone bills that, while not capable of fully reopening the government, would address the crisis's biggest pain points, from the SNAP impasse to widespread concern over military pay. Rank and file lawmakers, both Republicans and Democrats, seem to increasingly acknowledge that at some point soon, something's got to give. And by Wednesday afternoon, more bipartisan talks seem to be happening, said Senator Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska. Still, lawmakers haven't managed to pass anything to ease the shutdown pressure on Americans. Several measures from both sides of the aisle, including bills that would pay federal workers and save safety net programs from running out of money, even as the government stays shuttered, have failed and will continue to fail, at least until party leaders change their minds. That is just the wrong way to do this, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican South Dakota, said Tuesday. The way to approach this is just to reopen the government. Vice President J.D. Vance met that same day with Senate Republicans to talk in part about the shutdown, though lawmakers said the discussion veered primarily into frustrations about President Donald Trump's plans to import more beef from Argentina. The president, meanwhile, is on a multi-country trip in Asia and isn't scheduled to return until Thursday. Grocers warn lapse in SNAP WIC will have serious consequences. The National Grocers Association, which represents the independent supermarket industry, on Wednesday called on Congress to end the government shutdown and fund the SNAP and WIC programs. NGA President and CEO Greg Ferrara said in a statement that a lapse in the funding to those food assistance programs could lead to serious consequences like reduced employee hours, perishable food losses, and declining sales. On top of that, when benefits are restored, Ferrara warned that the resulting surge in demand could strain supply chains nationwide. As local grocers at the heart of vibrant communities they serve, we believe that no American should ever go hungry. Wow, man, that's crazy political, Ferrara said, adding that lawmakers need to immediately open the government so that our communities are supported and Americans can access the food they need to feed themselves and their families. Wow. Significant uptick in bipartisan negotiations. Senator Lisa Murkowski said Wednesday that there's been a significant uptick in bipartisan conversations relating to the ending of the shutdown. Among these rank and file lawmakers, that's good news. And there's a bill to keep funds flowing to food stamps and nutritional programs for low-income women, infants, and children that was blocked on the Senate floor on Wednesday. SNAP funds will lapse for the first time November 1st again. These are kind of just updates. I'm reading them in a thing. I think that's enough for now, though. I mean, we'll stay on top of this, but that's fucking crazy. Again, people are now talking about just like giving out food for Halloween to families that actually need it, and having and like taking on like SNAP buddies, basically. So finding someone in your community who receives SNAP benefits and basically making sure that them and their family are fed. Crazy, but nice to see people coming together as a community. And again, as I talked about earlier on the show, if this goes on for really any amount of time, food banks are not able to make up for this lapse at all. They don't have the capacity to do so. And I checked just to see if there was like a counterpoint to going hungry. Even Fox News, seemed to be covering this in a regular manner. Not saying like, well, they should have worked harder and like they deserve it, and we're tired of paying for people who have too many kids and don't deserve it. And don't deserve food because they're not working hard enough. Like, that's what you kind of expect, but that isn't the energy of the article. It's kind of just like factual. People are saying we should reopen the government. That's the fastest way to get over this. There's a quote, it's bullshit. I'll say I come from a small farm. I know the difference of good soil and the bullshit that goes in. And this is bullshit, taking these plans down to try to lie to the American people and justify why it's okay for people to go hungry. 40 million people. Yeah. So, I mean, that's good. They also agree that people shouldn't go hungry, it seems, from the articles that I'm seeing on Fox. I'm sure there'll be, some specific hosts of shows who say something about, people living off the government, et cetera, insert Republican talking point here, yada, yada, yada. All right. We're wrapping up here. I'm going to talk about two more things. This is interesting. I didn't really see a ton about this, but this to me was one of the crazier articles that came across my desk this week. This is from the New York Times. The Justice Department will monitor elections in California and New Jersey. Monitor elections, guys. Monitoring elections is like one step before stopping elections and having Donald Trump pick who is head of every state. It's like pretty crazy. And New Jersey, as I said, that's the gubernatorial election is one to watch. I saw some more footage, and it's not Jack Chattarelli, it's Chittarelli, even though the internet told me it should be pronounced Chattarelli. He says it Chittarelli. Anyway, that fucking Goomba human pizza pie guy, I fucking hate that guy. I hate that guy. And if you want to see the most ignorant fucking assholes in the world, go to the NewJersey.com Instagram and read the fucking comments on that. It's absolute horseshit. Again, if you live in New Jersey, please, please, please go help Mikey Sherrill's lackluster. My mom said a lot of officials in New Jersey are describing her campaign as milquetoast, which is 100% correct. Again, I think she'll be a good governor, but whoever ran her campaign needs to talk to whoever ran Zohran's campaign, because it is ridiculous. And some people got in my DMs being like, what's wrong with her campaign? Look at it. Look at it. Just go to the Instagram and look at it for yourself. Use your own eyes, use your own critical thinking, and then come back to me and say, do you think that is a well-run campaign? For the fucking governor of New Jersey. This is an important election. This is a very important, I'm not saying, yeah, I mean, some states' elections are more important than others. If New Jersey goes red, this is a big problem. Okay? Oh my God. The Trump administration said that monitors will watch polling in 2 states led by Democrats where key races or issues are on the ballot. The Trump administration said on Friday that the Justice Department will monitor polling sites in California and New Jersey ahead of the November 4th election, amid requests by Republican Party officials in those states. Who, the mafia? Jack Ciattarelli's mafia friends? I fucking hate that guy. I hate that guy. That guy is everything that's wrong with New Jersey. That kind of guy gives the whole fucking state a bad name, and I just really pisses me off. Although election monitoring by the Justice Department is not uncommon, it will likely heighten tensions as voters weigh in on some of the nation's most closely watched races. President Trump has pushed the Justice Department to pursue parts of his agenda, including going after his political enemies, which has eroded its traditional independence. Mr. Trump also blamed his 2020 election loss on rigged voting, although there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Yeah, he has blamed it, although it did not happen. Voter fraud is exceedingly rare, but Mr. Trump and other Republicans have since claimed it is rampant, particularly voting by mail, which is how most Californians vote. Democrats have called the argument a ruse for voter suppression. This administration has made no secret of its goal to undermine free and fair elections, Brandon Richards, a spokesman for Governor Gavin Newsom of California, said in a statement. Deploying these federal forces appears to be an intimidation tactic meant for one thing: suppress the vote. Both California and New Jersey are led by Democrats and have key races or issues on the ballot that could affect the balance of power between the parties. In New Jersey, Representative Mikey Sherrill, a Democrat, and Jack Ciattarelli, a Republican, are running in a close race to succeed Governor Phil Murphy. In California, Democrats are looking to a ballot measure, Proposition 50, to improve their chances of regaining control of the House in next year's midterm elections. The measure asks voters to revise California's congressional districts to favor Democrats in response to recent redistricting measures by Republican-led states, such as Texas, to favor their party. The Justice Department's announcement followed complaints last weekend by the New Jersey Republican Party that Democratic members of the Board of Elections in Passaic County had blocked the use of security cameras in ballot storage areas and refused to require a sign-in log for workers with access to mail-in ballots. Then on Monday, the chairwoman of the California Republican Party, Corinne Fisher, wrote to the Justice Department complaining that the party had received reports of irregularities. In some counties, bringing a bad name to Corinne's everywhere, but she spells it the fucked up way, which is Corrin. You're not one of us, aka one of me, the right Corinne's. Sorry to the other Corinne's out there, but I do feel like my Corinne is the superior spelling. In some counties that they feared will undermine either the willingness of voters to participate in the election or their confidence in the announced results of the election. The letter asked for monitors to be sent to 5 counties where the party asserted some voters had received incorrect ballots in past elections and where Republicans had raised concerns about the maintenance and accuracy of voter lists. The Justice Department said in a news release that personnel from the agency's Civil Rights Division would be stationed at polling places and offices of registrars of voters to ensure transparency, ballot security, and compliance with federal law. If you live in if you're voting in one of these states and you see people fucking monitoring, I know you're not allowed to use to record when you're actually in the voting thing, but if you see anything fucking fishy, please make a note of it somehow and report it. The department said those workers would coordinate with local U.S. attorneys' offices, but it did not specify how many observers would be deployed or the types of irregularities they would seek. This Department of Justice is committed to upholding the highest standards of election integrity. We will commit the resources necessary to ensure the American people get the fair, free, and transparent elections they deserve. California mails ballots to all registered voters, and most votes are cast by mail, with polling locations where voters can drop their ballots off in person if they prefer not to send them. In last November's election, 81% of voters in California voted by mail, according to the Secretary of State's office. Democrats greeted the announcement with skepticism, saying the move was a politically motivated effort to disrupt consequential votes in November. Correct. Shirley Weber, California Secretary of State, said that the Justice Department provided no justification for deploying monitors in what is a non-federal special election. We will not permit tactics masquerading as oversight to erode voter confidence or intimidate Californians, she said. Our voters have earned the right to cast their ballots free from surveillance or interference from anyone. The Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department enforces a range of statutes that protect the right to vote, and election officials say such monitoring has been conducted in the past under both Republican and Democratic administrations. In 2022, under the Biden administration, the department monitored compliance with federal voting rights laws in 64 jurisdictions in 24 states for that year's general election. In 2024, it sent monitors to elections in 86 jurisdictions, including all of the major swing states. Since 2020, when President Trump falsely claimed that he had lost because Democrats had stolen the election, MAGA Republicans have maintained a relentless focus on voter fraud and have trained election observers to aggressively search for possible irregularities at polling places. Scores of recounts, audits, and studies, some conducted by Republicans in the wake of Mr. Trump's loss in 2020, turned up no evidence of widespread problems with the vote, nor has any evidence materialized in more recent elections. Nonetheless, yes, I knew that you were going to have a problem. You would have found an irregularity.
I mean, they just, from what I saw this week, Dominion voting machines in Georgia, which was hotly contested in the 2020 elections, were forced to pay out a fine because of irregularities in an election. I'll look
in whose
further into
favor? Yeah.
I don't know. My point being that the machines could be flawed one way or another.
This is mostly about mail-in, though. That's where the Republicans seem to really hone in on the fraud. But yes, in general, again, listen, it doesn't really seem to be a thing. But yeah, find me that. Nonetheless, in recent months, the Justice Department has sued at least a half a dozen states, including California, demanding detailed voter data, ostensibly to ensure that ineligible voters were being removed from official rosters. In California, federal officials said monitors would be stationed in Los Angeles, Orange, and Riverside counties, three of the most heavily populated areas of Southern California, and across Fresno and Kern counties in the Central Valley. The targeted counties represent a population of some 17 million people and include some of the most heavily Latino areas of the state. What do you know? Wow, crazy. They're targeting people of color and voting. Voter suppression in an area that is highly occupied by people of color. Wow, so crazy. Never heard of that before. Dean Logan, the registrar recorder for Los Angeles County, said in a statement that federal monitors, like all election observers, were welcome to observe election activities at designated locations. He added that the presence of election observers is not unusual and is a standard practice across the country. I don't think I've ever seen an election observer when I went to vote. In New Jersey, Justice Department officials said that they would monitor polling in populous and immigrant-heavy Passaic County. If there's nothing to hide or wrong, why the concern in having the DOJ observe the elections departments, the California Republican Party asked in a social media post on Friday? Well, because exactly what they said before. It's a fucking intimidation tactic that tagged Mr. Newsom's office. Isn't transparency a good thing that only strengthens trust in our process, system, and government? Wow. Wow. Please, again, if you're in California or New Jersey, report back if there's anything interesting going on in your voting process if you go to vote in person. Last thing we'll talk about, this is from a couple weeks ago, but I think I wasn't I don't think I was live perhaps when this went on. Just, we're following still what's, going on with Venezuela and Trump. It's hard to keep up, but this is from the Independent UK. Pentagon, from October 16th, Pentagon press corps surrender badges and walk out at same time over Hegseth policy. Proud we stuck together. Only one news network signed on to the new rules imposed by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Dozens of journalists packed up their desks and exited the Pentagon together Wednesday, again, a couple Wednesdays ago, rather than agree to government-imposed restrictions on their work. Nice. That's what journalism should be. Many reporters waited to leave until a 4 p.m. deadline set by the Defense Department to get out of the building. Boxes of documents lined a Pentagon corridor as reporters carried chairs, a copying machine, books, and old photos to the parking lot from suddenly abandoned workspaces. Shortly after 4, about 40 to 50 journalists left together after handing in badges. News outlets were nearly unanimous in rejecting new rules imposed by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth that would leave journalists vulnerable to expulsion if they sought to report on information, classified or otherwise, that had not been approved by Hegseth for release. The requirements pushed journalists who cover the American military further from the seat of its power. The nation's leadership called the new rules common sense to help regulate a very disruptive press. It's sad, but I'm also really proud of the press corps that we stuck together, said Nancy Youssef, a reporter for The Atlantic, who has had a desk at the Pentagon since 2007. She took a map of the Middle East out to her car. It is unclear what practical impact the new rules will have, though news organizations vowed they continue robust coverage of the military no matter the vantage point. Images of reporters effectively demonstrating against barriers to their work are unlikely to move supporters of President Donald Trump, many of whom resent journalists and cheer his efforts to make their jobs harder. Trump has been involved in court fights against the New York Times, CBS News, ABC News, the Wall Street Journal, and the Associated Press in the past year. Trump supports the new rules. Speaking to reporters at the White House Tuesday, Trump backed his defense secretary's new rules. I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace. Yeah, it's the press that's doing it. Trump said, the press is very dishonest. Okay. Even before issuing his new press policy, Hegseth, a former Fox News Channel host, has systematically choked off the flow of information. He's held only 2 formal press briefings, banned reporters from accessing many parts of the sprawling Pentagon without an escort, and launched investigations into leaks to the media. He has called his new rules common sense and said the requirement that journalists sign a document outlining the rules means they acknowledge the new rules, not necessarily agree to them. Journalists see that as a distinction without a difference. What they're really doing, they want to spoon-feed information to the journalist, and that would be their story. That's not journalism, said Jack Keane, a retired U.S. Army general and Fox News analyst, said on Hegseth's former network. When he served, Keane said he required new brigadier generals to take a class on the role of the media in a democracy so they wouldn't be intimidated, and also see reporters as a conduit to the American public. There were times when stories were done that made me flinch a little bit, he said, but that's usually because we had done something that wasn't as good as we should have done it. Youssef said it made no sense to sign on to the rules that said reporters should not solicit military officials for information. To agree to not solicit information is to agree to not be a journalist, she said. Our whole goal is soliciting information. Reporting on U.S. military affairs will continue from a greater distance. Several reporters posted, and just remember so often, like think about Vietnam, it's like it was journalism and the truth about what was going on in Vietnam, getting to the American people, that is what ultimately stopped all this shit. People need to know what the fuck is going on with our military and what people are doing. Like, oh my God. Like, and again, we talked about Venezuela last week and what Trump is doing. We're just, figuring out, we're just guessing things might be part of our cartel and then taking ships down. Okay. Several reporters posted on social media when they turned in their press badges. It's such a tiny thing, but I was really proud to see my picture up on the wall of Pentagon correspondence, wrote Heather Mongilio, a reporter for USNI News, which covers the Navy. Today, I'll hand in my badge. The reporting will continue. Mangilio, Youssef, and others emphasize that they'll continue to do their jobs no matter where their desks are. Some sources will continue to speak with them, although they say some in the military have been chilled by threats from Pentagon leadership. In an essay, NPR reporter Tom Bowman noted the many times he'd been tipped off by people he knew from the Pentagon, and while embedded in the military, about what was happening, even if it contradicted official lines put out by leadership. Many understand the media's role. They knew the American public deserved to know what's going on, Bowman wrote. With no reporters able to ask questions, it seems the Pentagon leadership will continue to rely on slick social media posts, carefully orchestrated short videos, and interviews with partisan commentators and podcasters. No one should think that's good enough. The Pentagon Press Association, whose 101 members represent 56 news outlets, has spoken out against the rules. Organizations from across the media spectrum, from legacy organizations like the Associated Press and the New York Times to outlets like Fox and the conservative Newsmax, told their reporters to leave instead of signing the new rules. Only the conservative One American News Network signed on. Its management likely believes it will have greater access to Trump administration officials by showing its support. Gabrielle Kuchia, a former Pentagon reporter who was fired by OANN earlier this year for writing an online column criticizing Hegseth's media policies, told the AP in an interview. So really just fun all around. Everything's free. Home of the free. Land of the free, home of the brave. Sorry, I messed that up. I forgot. Yeah.
Oh, this is fun.
What?
So the thing I was seeing about Dominion voting
Uh-huh.
is actually that a right-wing Trump loyalist just bought it.
Okay. Well, that's terrifying.
The voting machines are now owned by a party.
Okay. I mean, that feels like that should be illegal, and I can't believe that it's not.
You'd think, right? You'd think that would be a common sense law we could get on the books.
Yeah, that's really crazy. I mean, it would be a great time for someone to introduce that legislation. It's not illegal for a political.
Well, I mean, technically, I guess it's not a political
He's
party, but it is a very close Trump, loyalist.
Right. And like, how do you? That's fucking crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Well, but what did you see about tampering or things going wrong? Your mic's off.
I didn't. I was looking. I'm seeing stuff that was. I mean, look, this thing came across my X feed. I didn't bother sending it to you. But I don't remember what the thing I saw was. I couldn't find it when I looked it up. But what I did find was a lot of people talking about how wild it is that Trump now has control of Dominion voting machines in 27. I think it said one of the things I read said 27 different state.
Bad news.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Real problem stuff.
Well, I guess this is part of the plan that they're going to lay out that Steve Bannon hinted at about how Trump is going to win a third term. I guess step one of the plan is own all the voting machines, and we're going to go in to vote, and the selection is going to say Trump or Trump. Those are going to be your choices. Trump or Trump. Do you want to vote for Trump or Trump? Wow. All right. Well, guys, that's our show for today. Thank you so much. I really wish I could bring you some more good news, but that's why I like to concentrate on municipal news, because even though, it's still bad, it's, it's a little more humorous, because, again, we can stop those people before they get a lot of power on a national level. Keep me abreast of any interesting elections, whether they be like ballot measures or people actually being elected into office, because the next time we talk, we will have a new mayor of New York City. And, me thinks it will be Zohran Mamdani, but, you never fucking know. And I'm interested to see who's getting elected, where you live in municipal roles, and if any interesting ballot measures are going through. And yeah, just keep me and what the ICE situation is where you live. You can send all that to me at withoutacountrypodcast@gmail.com. You can send domestic violence stories. You can send municipal, send anything that you want there. I try to get to everything I can. And if you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/withoutacountry. Of course, you can follow me on all social media at Philanthropy Gal. You can find Mike at Them Harrington. And yeah, and if you want to come see Guys We Picked Slutsgiving, that is November 14th, which is a Friday at the Crown Hill Theater in Brooklyn. Crown Hill. It's Crown Hill, right? Or Crown Hill Heights? Crown Heights? I'm so tired that I've now forgotten the name of the theater. Crown Hill, I think. Yeah. Okay, cool. That is our show for today.
Crown Hill Theater.
Yeah. No, I looked. I was like, it's Crown Hill. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
I appreciate you being here. Keep critically thinking. Thanksgiving's around the corner, so brace yourself for any political conversations you're going to be having over the dinner table. Once again, I'm sorry. I hate to brag, but I do have a small family. And I believe only 2 of them voted for Trump, but they're not going to bring it up. And they donated to my campaign. So I feel like they're the same people who, maybe voted for Trump, but also would vote for AOC. There you go. All right. That's it. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Bye.